In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. Yeah. This is Blood Politics. The only podcast where we don't talk about politics. We be about politics. And our mission statement is to empower, educate, and encourage everyone to speak out against fascism. Speak out against injustice. And fight for freedom and equality for everyone. This is Blood Politics. And we ain't stopping till they put us in the grave. We ain't gonna be quiet. And we ain't gonna be scared. And we ain't gonna go along with the crowd. This is Blood Politics. And it ain't about left or right.
Screw it. You know what? We got a lot to get into. And not a lot of time to do it. So what do you say we just hop right in? What's going on, guys? I appreciate you for joining me once again. My name's Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Hit that like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you will. If you like what you're hearing, if you like what you're seeing, we do have an action-packed show for you today. Great show. First half, we're going to be trying to utilize this platform to build up progressive candidates. This time, again, in my home state here in Massachusetts. So lots to discuss with our good friend Jack Richardson. But second half of the show is all going to be about what is going on with the craziness in the Strait of Hormuz, what's going on with this new whole action. We talked about this kind of on the last show, that they were going to try to portray this as like its own separate action so that the shot clock stopped on the time so they didn't have to go for congressional approval. But we got a ton of stuff to get into. What do you say we say hi to the chat first and foremost, because you guys make this thing happen as you do. What's going on, Cosmic Rose? How are you? How about a little screen time for you guys, because you guys deserve it. There you are. What's going on? Even bigger. What's up, No Money G? What's going on, Jamie? How are you? What's up to Soulcraft? Shout out to the mods, all you guys, wherever you guys may be. Shout out to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Substack, the whole 9 yards. Make sure you hit that like button, the thumbs up, whatever you can do over there. What's up, Twiggy? What's up, Flipper? How are you, Nick? What's going on, brother? What's going on, Lee? What's up, Bob? All right, appreciate you guys. Without wasting any more time, what's up, Aliosha? I see you over there on Twitch, my man. What's going on, guys? What's going on, Kyle? What's up, Deb? What's up, Gamer? What's up, Robin? Jimmy, Two Soups, how are you? I feel like we just got invaded by the mob there, but that was great. All right, what do you say we stop wasting time? I'll bring the man, the myth, the legend right in. Let me see if I can hit the right button here. Jack, what's going on, my friend? How are you? Thank you so much for joining Blunt Politics. I know it's been a hectic day for you. A little bit of car trouble, but you fought through the adversity. You made it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, shouts. Thank you for having me on, Brian. Shouts out Cape Towing for getting me here on time today. You never know what's going to happen on the campaign trail, and unfortunately today my car broke down. But thank you for having me on for working with
it just shows that you know how to bounce with the you kind of roll with the punches, as you will. And being from Massachusetts and playing a lot of sports down the Cape when I was in high school, I know that the trek that it takes for most people to get down there. And I know, gas prices being what it will, that'll probably come into the conversation, because I'm sure a lot of people down in the Cape don't necessarily work on the Cape. I'm assuming have to travel for work, right. And this whole situation with Iran, gas prices, oil prices is going to be probably a big bone of contention as well. But before we get ahead of ourselves, once again, I appreciate you for joining me. You're running for the 3rd Barnstable State Rep, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me anywhere that I'm wrong. Why don't you just tell my audience and anybody that's going to be listening to this later a little bit about yourself, how you got into politics, anything else that you want them to know about you?
Sure. Thank you. So my name is Jack Richardson. I'm a lifelong Cape Codder. Went to Falmouth Public Schools, K through 12 here on the Upper Cape. I currently serve, and I'm the youngest ever elected selectman in the town of Falmouth. I was elected at 22 years old. I'm now 23. And when we've been able to pass real change, we passed the first policy outside of the greater Boston area, and we're currently the smallest municipality to have officially banned ICE from our town property. So if they don't have a judicial warrant, they are considered legally trespassing if they're on town property. And just last night at a selectmen's meeting, which adjourned at 11:30, so I'm looking forward to not having to do those anymore. But we instructed to have signage up in our big areas. So our veterans center, or the community center, the senior center, areas like that, we're going to have signage up saying, City of Chicago has done this. You're trespassing. Also passed a 10% residential tax exemption. The median home price here in Barnstable County is over $850,000. And a lot of that has been driven up post-pandemic, second and third homeowners who live out of state year round who have purchased property here. So what I did is I pushed for and passed a 10% residential tax exemption. So if you're a year-round Cape Codder, if you live in Falmouth year-round, your tax bill, 10% will be taken off of your levy and will be instead put on to those non-residential homeowners. Saves homeowners and year-round residents an average of $450 a year on their tax bill, trying to address that equity. And usually what we found is other towns on the Cape that have done this, after the first year, that 10% level, they usually raise it to 20%. So really
Right.
proud of getting that done. And then the third main policy that I passed is we were considering a project over our single source Long Pond watershed. And I was the 3-2 hung vote. I was the deciding vote to block the project. And we just placed that land into permanent conservation for perpetuity at our last town meeting. So clean future generations in Falmouth will have clean drinking water. So I'm about the environment. I'm about standing up for our immigrants, and I'm about addressing affordability in a ways that promotes a more equitable society. So that's kind of what I'm running on as my record. But also the knowing that, Beacon Hill, there's a Democratic supermajority, but we don't act like it at times. And I think we need to do more. We led in the early 2000s in passing our mandatory healthcare coverage. There's no reason that we can't in one of the richest states per capita and the richest nation in the history of our planet. There's no reason we can't pass single payer Medicare for all. So I'm really tapped into the local issues that affect Cape Codders, but it's also important that these big structural changes, the impacts they'll have around the Commonwealth and especially here on Cape Cod.
I really appreciate it. I mean, spot on answer as far as I'm concerned. And then your opponent is currently a Republican holding that seat, if I'm not
That's
mistaken.
right. Yeah.
Right.
So I
Can you
don't
tell
have
us a little bit about him and kind of
Sure.
the obvious things you could call out?
Yeah, so I do not have a Democratic primary as well. I'm the only Democrat in this race. My opponent has held the seat for 16 years. He's a member of Republican leadership. The Massachusetts House passed the Protect Act about a month ago now. My opponent, there's a provision in the bill where if you're an employer and immigration requests in a tax document for your someone you have to tell that person, hey, ICE is going after your tax documents within 48 hours. My opponent filed an amendment to that bill to try to remove that provision from the bill, so people would be in the dark if ICE was going after them. He's voted against a number of affordable housing legislations, original versions of the Protect Act on abortion. Originally, he was voting against those. And just last week, the House voted on its budget, and he voted against a consolidation amendment that included $25,000 for the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center and $500,000 for the Disabled Veterans Fund of Massachusetts, among other really good things in that amendment. So there's real differences in this race. I respect my opponent for what he's done for the district. He's 16 years of service is a long time, but when it comes to the issues that are affecting everyday year-round Cape Codders, he's on the wrong end of the votes.
Now, do you run into, like, a lot of people say that, like, Republicans in Massachusetts tend to be a lot different than, like, say, Republicans in the middle of the country or down south. Do you see that here as well? I mean, again, as Massachusetts, we're not against, say, electing a Republican governor if, say, he kind of, portrays and wants to get done what the people of the state see is beneficial to the people of the state. Like, is there a little bit that you can talk about, like, the difference in, politics as far as Massachusetts, maybe, or Republican Massachusetts, as far as like down south, or like I said, more middle of the country?
Yeah, I think it ebbs and flows. I think you do have some moderate Republicans, the Charlie Baker molds. But now I think what you've really seen in that party is they've really moved farther to the right. There was actually a number of incumbents who were more moderate last cycle who lost primaries to MAGA candidates. So I think it's breaking. I mean, but also I think we have to look at the Democratic Party here in Massachusetts. There's states that have been able to pass significant reforms with much smaller majorities than we have in Massachusetts. So I think we also need to look at I mean, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not afraid to call out my own party when we're not doing enough. And I think we need to look at kind of the efficiency of the legislature. And I'm going to be a voice who's going to push us to do more. And of course, I'm going to work with colleagues across the aisle and my fellow Democrats, but with the urgency that, on a lot of these big structural issues, things that are affecting everyday Cape Codders, we don't have time to wait on bills.
Right.
So kind of providing that perspective as someone who is middle class, who's still paying their student loans, realizing that the cost of the pump is unaffordable. And definitely get into energy on that too. But there are big changes we need to make here in Massachusetts.
Now, can you speak a little bit about how important local politics is, local elections, because a lot of emphasis is put on, and rightly so, the midterms and, the general elections, of course, but I think it really boils down to, and a way in which I want to utilize this platform is to build up and to give a platform to other progressive people and progressive candidates, whether it be local elections, town elections, statewide, or federal. So just a little bit about how local politics is so important to get involved in, whether or not you're going to the town meetings or like yourself are running for a specific spot or a specific seat. Just a little bit about how important that is too.
There's no impact too small. And what we've able to see in American history, really in the last 20 years, how the right actually has been very effective at mobilizing in local elections. You've seen the kind of stranglehold they used to have that's finally breaking on school committees, where the rights had, look at Moms for Liberty, groups who really targeted those local elections and got ordinances passed. It's really important that we're organizing at every level. It's not as glamorous, running for dog catcher or running for, a library trustee, but there's real votes in every role. And I like to point out what I've been able to get done on the Falmouth Select Board. That's a part-time role. I actually, when I won my seat, there was five candidates that ran for two seats. But I was the only candidate who ran for a 1-year seat. So I didn't have an opponent when I first ran. So, I like to think for the voters, I'm lucky it was me, but if that could have been someone else, so
you're biased though, obviously.
Yeah, right. So it's really important that we're organizing at every level of government, because that's where the change happens. The position I'm running for, I like to describe it as kind of it's the first level of a full-time politician, where like this is your job. Like I only get a monthly stipend. I have other work for my select board job, but this is, your state representative. If you have an issue with your unemployment insurance, your Veterans Affairs benefits, whatever it may be, that's the person you're supposed to go to for help, or if you have an issue with legislation. So I think it's really important to have a representative here in Falmouth, Mashpee, and Bourne that reflects the values of the district. Because yes, we have Democrats in the Senate and all of our Congress here in Massachusetts, but actually the entirety of the Upper Cape, with a very small portion of the exception is a small portion of Falmouth, is entirely represented by Republicans, and I don't think their voice is being heard.
Right. Now, what does progressivism mean to you? If somebody were to just come up and ask you, what is a progressive, or, what is it that you guys espouse, or what is it, somebody that's not involved, maybe not familiar, maybe not as politically inclined as, the rest of us here that are maybe watching this, like, what would a good response to that be?
Yeah, I think that there's two parts of it where it's key to recognize what are our fundamental, rights that we believe in that must be had. And I think for me, that's a right to affordable health care, a right to a good wage and union benefits and a union job. And for me, it's just our society fundamentally is not working when you have a handful of men in Silicon Valley who have more money than 60% of Americans. And it's about having a more equal society where if you even look at, what the progressive tax rates used to be under Richard Nixon, it was a lot more equal. Nothing that's being pushed today in America is necessarily radical. It's just we're looking to.
Oh, for some reason you cut out. Hold on. It says we're having trouble streaming to your destination. It is possible the stream was ended or deleted on this destination. Hold on one sec. Can you hear me? Let's see here. I can't hear what you're saying for some reason. Can't unmute your guest because they chose to mute themselves. You have to unmute on your end.
How about now? Am I back?
I don't know why that would just happen. Not only did it kick me off a Substack, but it muted you at the same time. So somebody really doesn't like our progressive values. I think Russia.
Big tech is after my campaign. So for me as a progressive, it's about, we have to put working people first. Our seniors, our veterans who have given back to this country, our Our pipe lifters, our first responders, our teachers, our firefighters. Those are the people that are struggling in this country right now. And it's about fighting for a more equal society for them, where wealth isn't concentrated into the hands of the very few.
Now, what are you hearing from people in the community that you're talking about? I mean, the frustrations out there, I'm sure there's no shortage of things on the list that people have to gripe about, rightly so at this moment in time. But, what are like the top things that you're hearing right now from people that, you're going out and taking the lollipops from the
Yeah.
babies and shaking hands and stuff?
Yeah, what I'm hearing on knocking on doors in this district right now is housing is huge. It's a huge problem across this country. But as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at over $850,000 as the median home price here in Barnstable County. You have to be making $350,000 a year for that to be affordable. And the
Right.
truth is, with the economy here on Cape Cod, there are very few people who are doing that. So um, that's probably number one for me. One thing we did on the Falmouth Select Board is with our town meeting, we passed a policy which will allow, if you are, say, you're a senior and you want to downsize, or you have an accessory dwelling unit in your house, if you rent that out at up to 200% of the area median income, which that way we have that threshold. So you include your teachers, you include your firefighters, your policemen who don't qualify for the lower levels of housing. We'll give you, the select board, a up to 100% off of your property tax bill. So what that doing, instead of spending millions and millions of dollars to fund construction of units, what we're doing is we're allowing residents who are looking to, just make not a lot, but make some money and downsize, giving them an opportunity to rent, so we can have firefighters, have our police officers, have our teachers, and we're not adding to we have real wastewater problems here on Cape Cod. So you're not adding to the flow, you're not adding new waste, and you're saving on construction time as well. So you're creating new units immediately. So policies like that, where we're pursuing, whether it be a deed restricting purchasing program, I have publicly supported and do in this campaign a real estate transfer fee, a small tax on high value real estate transactions to fund affordable housing and to fund wastewater and cleaning our drinking water. So that's a big priority to me and the people in the district, because Barnstable County in the 2020 census, it was the third oldest county in the United States. So young people just cannot afford to live here. So we need to generate housing and build new housing while not compromising our environment. And the other one is energy. Massachusetts, we have some of the highest energy prices anywhere in the country. At the same time, Eversource, the company that runs most of our energy, their stock price has tripled over the last 15 years. It's outpaced the S&P. So for me, if you look at, we have what's called municipal light plants, municipal light boards, where there are some towns in Massachusetts that own and run their own electricity, and we find their rates are significantly cheaper. And if you look at the communist state of Nebraska, this is a policy they do there, and they have some of the cheapest energy anywhere in the country. So if they can do it, we can. Where if you give towns the tools, the taxpayers are investing into their own utilities, into their own energy sources, you can then have a situation where, as their CEO is making record profits and saying they need to raise rates on you, where we don't have to have that relationship anymore. So it's a policy that is not only working around the country, but it is actually working here in cities and towns in Massachusetts. So for me, that is a solution. But we also need to get real about renewable energy and needing to invest in those, because as we've seen with this Republican war in Iran, this is a geopolitical, we don't have to worry about what's happening in Washington if we control our solar and our wind energy here. We have it locally. So I think, and also that creates clean, green, and union jobs. I was in college when President Biden announced with a group of folks my age, the Civilian Climate Corps, where, green jobs across the country that were good paying jobs around clean energy and around environmental stewardship. We need to bring that program back, and we need to strengthen it and have it here in Massachusetts. It's kind of that New Deal politics. So we're investing in creating new jobs in the Commonwealth, but also making sure that we are not only meeting our environmental goals, but actually lowering the cost of energy in the long term.
Well, I mean, obviously, lower cost is going to be a huge, thing on people's mind, especially here in Massachusetts, which is consistently one of, if not the most, expensive state to live in. So, affordability in housing and things like that are obviously going to be huge on people's minds, especially now. I mean, we talked about a little bit before we popped on, just being down the Cape and people not necessarily, working on the Cape, like you talked about, the amount that you need to make in order to have a house of $850,000 down there. I mean, those jobs aren't really, a dime a dozen down there on the Cape. So I'm sure these people are traveling to, Boston inner city or somewhere in that general area to get a job that will, allow them to afford that. So gas prices now, and what we've seen with the war in Iran, and obviously not only Donald Trump, but the Pentagon, from everybody down, and all the Republicans that support this, don't seem to really care much about the impact that it's having on, the blue collar workers of this, of this country. So are you hearing? Obviously, you must be, but are people, as frustrated as we seem to think they are about the gas prices and how it doesn't seem to have an off ramp or ending anytime soon?
Definitely. Ironically, when my car broke down at the gas station today, it was while I was waiting. While I was waiting
Sorry.
for
I didn't mean to bring it up already.
No, you're good. But when I was waiting for the tow company to come, I went in and I spoke with the shop owner, and I said, "Hey, how what are you hearing? What are people saying?" And it's affecting our small gases, businesses too. This is a small corner store, North Falmouth, Massachusetts, and they're saying, yeah, people aren't coming. The one, if you want to look at the silver lining in this, I hope, and we've seen Amtrak has had a record jump in ridership. I hope this will show why we need to invest in, statewide rail, bring rail to Buzzards Bay, and then hopefully over the bridge into Cape Cod. Have more opportunities for public transportation, so that we can get cars off the road, and hopefully have people be a little less reliable on their cars. But yeah, I mean, my opponent has done nothing to call out he's in leadership of the Republican Party, and he's refused to call out the president for this war that's happening in Iran, as American citizens are dying overseas for a war that everyday Americans are not only not benefiting from suffering from. So I'm someone who's not afraid to say that, and I'm not afraid to stand up and call out an injustice, whenever it may be. And I think it's really important that we have leaders who, yes, I'm running to represent the residents of Falmouth, Mashpee, and Bourne, but these big national issues, they affect the price of the pump is across the Commonwealth, across the country. So it's really important to stand up in this moment of our history.
Oh man, the chills I just got when you said Mashpee, the memories of having to go down to Mashpee to play baseball and not coming back until like midnight. The only good benefit was like stopping at the McDonald's at the bridge.
Yeah, exactly.
Or is it a Burger King? I forget at this point.
No,
but
it's a McDonald's.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like that was the only bright spot in the whole trip. You know what I mean? It's a ways down there. But I have a few things just kind of jotted down here, and if you could just kind of give me a quick yes or no on kind of where you lie in them. First one's affordable housing. I'm going to kind of answer for you as far as yes, because you've explained it so well already. Medicare for all, I think you've already mentioned, but I'll let you answer on that one.
Yes, 100% priority.
Universal pre-K.
Yes.
Raising the minimum wage.
Yes, and indexing to inflation.
Student debt cancellation.
Yes, and I think we also need to look at medical debt cancellation too. I saw Abdul Al Saeed said the other day, I think it costs about $1 billion, $2 billion to end all medical debt, and we spent $20 billion in the war in Iran. So we can afford to end medical debt in this country too.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of the estimates are low balls. I mean, somebody's going to have to get in trouble for whatever, I forget what his title was now, but going on in front of Congress and saying that, we've only spent $25 billion on the war in Iran, when again, the low estimates are around, 40, 50, 60, upwards to 70 and higher, especially if you calculate in munitions that we've expended, the damage done to the U.S. bases. I'm sure you've heard of the CNN reporting that came out just the other day of, how extensive the damages are, and basically how we've almost abandoned a lot of our positions there in the Middle East, which doesn't seem like a conquering military, doesn't seem like a military that's like got overwhelming power and success in the area. But just a couple more of these, obviously, protecting unions, something that a lot of people in this area are rightly on board with, and then just a couple of some simple ones, obviously protecting voting rights and reproductive rights as well, are just more of things that we espouse and that are easy to be on board with, I believe.
Absolutely. My campaign chair had a 40-year career working for the Teamsters in Washington, D.C. My mom used to be a member of NAGE. She's now a member of Moses. NAGE helped pay for summer camps and send me to summer camps as a kid, I am 100% supportive of unions. I used to work as the State House as a staffer, and on day one, I signed the right to organize for State House staff, and I will 100% support that on Beacon Hill, even if leadership doesn't want me to. Everyone deserves the rights to organize, and I support legalizing the right to strike for all public employees here in Massachusetts.
Well done. Appreciate you for answering those questions. Now, there's another thing, just kind of switching gears here. The money in politics. I know so much. This doesn't pertain so much to your local election, but your stance on money in politics, and obviously a lot of contention right now with AIPAC and the Israeli lobby and their funding of both sides of the aisle. So just kind of where you stand on that issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Citizens United was really, one of the darkest turning points, I think, in the history of our nation and what we've seen in the last a little over 20 years now. With our elections, we need to end corporate PACs. Israel was committing a genocide in Gaza, and now they're committing an illegal war with America's support. Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, and the ICC should execute their warrant. I'm not afraid to say that. I will never, this is a state race, but hey, I'll never take AIPAC money. They can't offer it to me anyways, but I think that is
right.
It's
important to get on the record, though. You know what I
Right.
mean? Especially in today's day and age, what we're seeing in
Right.
Lebanon, what continues to happen not only in Gaza but obviously the West Bank with the settler movement. I think it's very important to stand firm on one side or the other here. So I appreciate
Exactly
you answering the
right.
question, even though it doesn't necessarily pertain to your
And
local race.
we should be horrified of this. I remember for me 2024 election was a lot like, that reminds you of the Chicago Convention during Vietnam, where you need to listen to your base. A vast majority of Democrats do not support what Israel is doing in Gaza or what Israel is now doing in Lebanon and across the Middle East. So this is an easy one for me, and I think it should be for other Democratic politicians. We should not be caving to outside influence, and that's why I think we need to look deeper at. I have a friend who's also named Jack, who's running for state representative in Connecticut, and he's actually done fundraising because they have public financing of elections there. So he got a certain number of small dollar donations from his district, and the state of Connecticut matches the donations, and he's now publicly funded through the end of the campaign. So I think it's something we should look at here in Massachusetts as a model. We do have public financing for our statewide offices, but usually the candidates don't opt in because it's kind of strict and you don't get that much out of it. So I think it's a policy that we should look into. And then also on, we have a ballot question here in Massachusetts. If we want to adopt the the top two all primary system, I'm asking voters to vote against that. And my example is just look at what's happening in California, where you're having, some qualified, some unqualified Democrats having to drop out of the race because there's a worry that a state as blue as California might elect two Republicans in the runoff. So I support ranked choice voting at all levels of government. I think it could be really important for local elections too. We really need to be serious about democracy reforms here at Massachusetts. And also on the Massachusetts angle, I think it is really important if 72% of voters vote for an audit of a legislature that you let it happen. And I know I'm not in the legislature, but that's really important for transparency and for having that trust with the government. I understand the concerns about you're having a politician audit other politicians, but it just needs to happen, whatever way it can.
Now, are you seeing, and I was just throwing this up on the screen, are you seeing kind of this trend that kind of CNN and everybody that's doing this, this kind of work is noticing as far as like not only the break as far as the GOP, but obviously independence now from Donald Trump, like in your travels and you going to meetings and talking to people, we've seen it, whether it's kind of over just in general the war with Iran, whether it's ICE and DHS and Americans getting shot in broad daylight in the streets of America, or gas prices we could talk about, or the support and working side by side with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu and committing these atrocities. Like, are you seeing the shift in your community as well as people either less likely to speak up for Donald Trump or more likely to speak up against Donald Trump? I know they're kind of this one and the same. Like the people that are typically the loudest and with the red hats, like just them taking that red hat off and kind of fading into the background is like a sign in and of itself. And then you got the people that are going even further we always talk about in reference the lady in, I think it was Pennsylvania, that called herself an idiot because she was lied to, for not being, now she can't fill up her gas tank. She's realizing it wasn't January 6th, or grab women by the crotch, or the 34 felony counts, or anything like that. It's the fact that she can't afford to fill her Toyota fucking Corolla with with gas at this point.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's an obvious shift, and I just put this on, excuse me, sorry, but there was a good CNN clip here where he goes through the GOP and obviously independents that are shifting, and we've gone over in past shows, the shift inside of not only the base but also the politicians themselves in support for Israel as well. So I'm just curious, like I said, if you're seeing it in your community. Sorry to be so long-winded.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think I am seeing it. I think you're right, and I think it does speak to how I think in the past the Democratic Party, and I will get to Trump, but I think it speaks to how the Democratic Party has kind of forgotten their base of the working class people, where we need to speak to the issues of energy prices, of housing affordability, of the cost of groceries, because that's what has destroyed this Trump administration is themselves. The tariff policy has completely backfired and raised the costs of everything on everyday Americans. Gas is over $5 a gallon many places in the country. It's about $4.50 here. I knew because I've sitting at the gas station so long today. But the cost.
And you guys typically down the Cape get hit a little harder than most of the state, right?
We do. And also, we talked earlier about people going off the bridge for work. We actually now have over 50%, it's estimated, over 50% of workers on Cape Cod are commuting onto Cape Cod because they can't afford it. So we have a huge commuter base now on the Cape, on and off Cape, while we're trying to replace our bridge. So it's really hurting our region. And here on Cape Cod, another area that is underestimated, but we've had a huge drop off in Canadian tourists. The people who come,
beat me to it.
Yeah, the people who come earlier in the season, who kind of help us in those May and June periods, they are not coming at all. And I know the Outer Cape is really struggling here in the Mid and the Upper Cape. We are too. It's affecting every asset of our life. So I think Americans are now finally understanding that. I mean, when you have a president who campaigns on, I'm going to lower the cost of eggs, and then they triple, or I'm not going to do any foreign wars, and then he goes and he abducts the leader of Venezuela and then starts a war in the Middle East. So he's broken his promises to his base. And the only thing I want to say to disaffected Trump voters and disaffected Republicans is, look, I don't blame you for being duped. You were frustrated and you felt your needs weren't met. What I'm saying is I'm a candidate who's going to speak to the needs of everyday Americans, for the working class people, for the seniors and veterans on fixed incomes. We need to speak to you as well. And I think it's really important that the Democratic Party now is a party that pursues these progressive policies that are actually going to help put money back in the wallets of everyday Americans.
Yeah, and just to your point of broken promises and how ridiculous the hypocrisy is, the promises based off of what we're seeing now in reality. This was Trump just the other day talking about, even when this whole debacle and chaotic situation with Iran is over, when the Strait of Hormuz is either opened or Iran finally gets that control that they're desperate for and seemingly are likely to get based on whatever agreement we actually come to, or however this thing ends. This is Donald Trump saying that we're immediately going to go for Cuba. Basically, we're just going to have a U.S. aircraft carrier stop on the way back, and we're going to invade Cuba and just take over Cuba. So I just play this quick clip, and I'll get your thoughts on the other end.
Good job. An architect who's really talented. He's done a lot of work for him. He's got a flair, a beautiful Hispanic flair in particular. And he comes from originally a place called Cuba, which we will be taking over almost immediately. No, Cuba's got problems.
And again, to your point of, tourism, and I think that's a New England-wide problem at this point. There's lots of places, I'm sure, in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, that rely upon the same type of people and communities and tourism that, you're reliant upon down there on the Cape to keep you sustained and keep you guys moving in these certain months of the year in which there's, downturns, or not necessarily people within the state or within New England coming to these destinations as well. But, when you're talking about the tariff situation, When you're talking about Donald Trump going after Greenland, going after Cuba, pick your poison, Venezuela, now in Iran, the chaos in the Middle East, like that makes people distrust the United States. People don't want to come here. They don't want to spend their money here. We've seen it within, the ticket sales in for the World Cup. You know what I mean? There's a small percentage. I'm not sure exactly what the percentage is now, but there's a lot of people speaking up and saying, "No, I'm not going. I'm not paying the money. I'm boycotting now. I'm just not going to give the United States my money. I'm not going to trust them. I'm not going to go there so they can look through my social media and say that something I said 5 years ago goes against the policies or the beliefs of the president. So now I'm in El Salvador in prison or something like that." So it's like, the promises of no new wars, the promises of cutting your energy costs in half in the first 60 days or whatever the hell he said, the promises of ending the war in Ukraine, and then what we're seeing now in reality is having a huge impact. And again, it's a New England-wide problem, but obviously you're feeling it down there, the pinch down there on the Cape as well too. So.
One of my favorite ironic clips is Secretary of State Marco Rubio when he said, the people of Iran have been screwed where an administration that has just done terrorism and has not invested in its people and has not invested in its education and has not invested in Iranians. I just don't understand how they can say that when that is literally what they're doing here in the United States.
Do you remember when he said
this? Just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it.
Yeah.
So he knew that a con artist was about to take over the Republican Party and they had to put a stop to it. And now look at him. He's in the administration working for that con artist. I mean, if that doesn't tell you a lot of what you need to know about these people and how much not only they've changed for their, careerist beliefs or, for proximity of power, money, whatever it may be, that kind of, hits it on the nose right there.
And I also think it's really important to point how, every Republican at every level of government is implicated in this. Any Republican who's being quiet, I mean, probably only Representative Thomas Massie in Kentucky is the only Republican I can think of who, at least on a number of issues, is standing up and saying, hey, this is not right. Any Republican, and that includes my opponent, who has not said anything about the war in Iran, anything about gas prices, anything about the illegal war in the illegal kidnapping of Maduro in Venezuela, anything on ICE, and in fact filed that amendment on ICE. He is implicated in this too. And until he comes out and comes against the president of his party and what they're doing, I'm going to continue my campaign and keep it respectful, but keep it pointed and say, hey man, you got to stand up for your constituents. We have a vibrant Brazilian community, a vibrant Cape Verdean community, a number of Portuguese people here in Falmouth, Mashpee, and Bourne. And every day he's refusing to stand up for them. They're in danger. So that's not okay with me. I've led on ICE and on immigration on this issue too. And, it's really important that we're looking at our Republican representation at every level of government.
I'm no political strategist, but I mean, that seems to be a huge open door right there for you to start, I don't know. I don't want to put it too bluntly as I typically do on the show, but, to start hammering away at your opponent, let's just say, you know what I mean? Where he's not talking about one of not only the biggest news stories going right now, but one of the biggest impacts to not only people in his community, but to people all over the country as it pertains to gas prices. I mean, I'm sure you have, truck drivers in the area, what they're paying for diesel right now is astronomical. We're coming into fishing season, big fishing community, obviously in Massachusetts. So what are the lobstermen doing as far as paying that cost on diesel? And, is it worth it to go out and how much they need to catch? Like that has a huge impact on a lot of different communities, here in the Massachusetts and New England area. I mean, it's amazing to think just what the fishing community is going to do. Right. With the way that, with the cost of diesel right now, it's just, is it worth it to even fucking leave port? I don't know.
Right. And that's actually something just on that policy that I think the state of Massachusetts needs to do more on. Agriculture and fisheries is one committee in Massachusetts. It's great we have a biotech scene in Boston. It's great we have, different businesses who are starting up here. But the truth is the South Coast and Cape Cod, we have we have a huge number of fisheries and a number of farmers as well who are really struggling right now. And due to either federal subsidies expiring or just the cost of increase of tariffs, or as you just mentioned, fuel, I think the state of Massachusetts needs to do more and invest in our local communities. There's a fantastic group here in town called Farming Falmouth, which has done a food resource study, and it shows that there is huge, significant needs for a local food source to kind of bridge that gap, that hunger gap we have here, and doing anything we can to support efforts like that, where you're having community grown gardens and community space where it's cheaper, but it's also healthier for people. So I think that's really important. And also on that note, in that consolidation amendment I voted against, excuse me, that consolidation amendment I mentioned earlier, my opponent voted against. That was included in that millions of dollars in nutrition education and a move to remove ultra processed foods from our schools. So there are real differences in this race, and it affects really every level of our lives.
Now, are you being impacted down on the Cape as much as I feel like my community where I grew up in is, with like people moving out, lack of young kids, lack of just, I don't know. It's sad to see what my hometown is right now and not being able to put together sports teams, because it's just, everything seems to be condominiums, and it's bringing in, a lot of older people. It's bringing in a lot of, single or, younger couples, but they don't have kids. So a lot of the school systems are suffering. So I feel like, the school systems in this state need to be, in certain sections, I'm sure not in all the places they need to be looked at. But is that something that you're seeing down the Cape and in your area, your districts?
Yeah, definitely. We are seeing here, we're looking to downsize our school system, where we are looking to close in a few years one of our buildings because our enrollment numbers year over year are declining. The truth is, if you look at who's leaving Massachusetts right now, it's people who look like you and me. It's younger families, it's young professionals. This is bad from a health of a community standpoint, but also from an economic standpoint. When you're replacing young folks who are working and contributing to the tax base with retirees, that's a net negative on our economies. And what you're seeing across the South Shore and across Cape Cod is you're seeing towns that are really struggling right now with their finances. You're seeing proposition overrides everywhere because tax rate for your commercial is going down a lot because people are moving. So this, for me, again, I think housing is issue number one for us here in Massachusetts, where you need to get the cost down. We have, I think Boston is like the 5th highest place to rent a 2-bedroom apartment anywhere in the United States. Only traveling, New York, LA, and San Francisco. So
yeah, it's crazy.
We really need to drop the prices here. And for me, that's building, but also it's looking at, on Cape Cod, at least, we have so many vacant units. Is there any way we can work to deed restrict and purchase them, or can we rent them out and provide either an incentive to do that, or a empty homes tax? I know exists in some communities.
So and in a broader countrywide effort, stop the corporations from buying up all these vacant homes and land and making the prices shoot up, exorbitantly.
I was really glad that was included, and I would file a bill too to say, corporations, your BlackRocks, cannot buy single family homes, because that's what we're seeing a lot, and you're seeing it in red states a lot too. You're seeing it in Texas and Florida. They're outbidding families. They do it incrementally. They'll do it by $100 every time until that family, that small, that teacher, that firefighter, that police officer who's trying to raise a family is priced out. So that's a bill that I would support filing here in Massachusetts, because while there was bipartisan support about it, our president has said nothing is passing until he passes the SAVE Act, which would decimate our democracy even further. I absolutely support that policy. And I think we need to look at ways we can generate more revenue for housing, which is why I've publicly supported that real estate transfer fee on sales over $1 million.
And I feel like we have so much ammunition right now, because as we're talking about the necessities and where the people in these communities would like to see things go, and, with prices going down, with more affordable housing being out there, with more resources being afforded to the people that need it, whether it's marginalized communities, people of color, trans people, LGBTQIA, whatever it may be, whatever communities out there need the assistance, like more resources, just more things for the people that make this society what it is. I grew up in a blue collar, everybody around me was blue collar. There was no, very few and far between where they're like the white collar people in this. And it's very important for us to remember the roots and the people here. And like I said, it seems like a good opportunity right now, considering everything is on the rise. It has been for quite some time, but not at a rate like we've seen recently. recently because of the actions of the Republican administration, because of Donald Trump and his regime right now. So it's really a time where we have the most ammunition once again to go after our political opponents and hammer away at them and the things they're either defending or not talking, not speaking up about. And kind of we need to utilize this moment, whether it's local elections or the midterms in general, and then carrying that momentum into the to the general election as well. So I think now is a very crucial moment for races just like yours, people just like you, all the way up to the federal elections as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's important. Like, yeah, every level of government matters. I think this is a time. I don't like the term "vote blue no matter who" because I think that we do need to make sure we have litmus tests and we make sure we do have good Democrats, but we certainly shouldn't be voting for Republicans at this moment in time. So, I asked the residents of the 3rd Barnstable District to trust me, to trust my record, to realize that no one should serve in any one office for 16 years. And that means time for a change. I ask the constituents for my vote and for support as I'm running this campaign, running against a member of Republican leadership who now has got lined his pockets with a corrupt leadership stipend. So he's increased his own pay by $55,000 just by being one of 25 Republicans.
You're effectively running against Barnstable's Viktor Orban. You know what I mean? 16 years in power, lining his own pockets. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's got to be a sign somewhere in that.
your words, not mine on that one. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm like I said, I'm a Democrat, but when my party's out of line, I'm willing to call them out too. So this is bigger than. This isn't a left versus right thing. It's a top versus the bottom thing, and working class Americans right now need champions at every level of government who are going to fight for them.
Now, what's next for your campaign? What's the next step? What's the next thing that people can be doing to get involved if they're living in the area? Again, even if you don't live in the area, if you're not from Massachusetts, if you're not from down the Cape, make sure you're checking out Jack's social medias. Make sure you're following him and supporting the campaign and, doing as much as you possibly can do, again, depending on where you live. But like, what's next in terms of your campaign? What's next on your agenda, on the calendar that we need to be looking at? For some reason you're muted again, and I have no idea why.
Yeah, so I think it's whenever I click off so in the chat I just sent you, it's going to be an expensive race. I'm asking for small dollar donations, $1, $2, $5, whatever folks can give across this country and across this Commonwealth. This is a people-powered campaign where I'm putting people first. And also, if you are here in Massachusetts or nearby in Cape Cod, we're going to be knocking a lot of doors. Right now, I'm attending as many events as I can. I'm going out there. I'm in the community.
I'm throwing those links in the chat for everybody that's in the chat right now. My apologies. Don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no worries.
Just in case you're seeing those links go in the chat, I'm throwing those in there now.
So if folks want to volunteer here, but also, we're going to start phone banking soon, doing persuasion, calling voters across this district. I want to reach every day Cape Codders at their doorstep, but that requires finances and that requires a team of volunteers. This is going to be a grassroots campaign. I labor printed materials only. We don't work with consultants that are working against the labor unions. I signed petitions to do that. And again, I'm running against a member of Republican leadership who's going to be backed by corporate interests. So it's really important to have small grassroots donations. I really appreciate any help that anyone can give. And, I want to be held accountable if I'm elected. And, I'm going to make sure that I'm always standing up for working people. And I'm not going to go back on my promises to stand up for the everyday Americans that make the Upper Cape the great place it is to live and to work.
Now, random question here, but is your family supportive of this in this kind of, divisive political time that we live in? Are they're on board with this run?
Yeah.
Or was it a difficult sell?
No, I'm very privileged. My mom used to read the Boston Globe to me every day when I was a kid, just sitting on the countertop. So she kind of takes the blame for it. She thinks that she's kind of, set me up to do this. So, I try to set a healthy balance where, you keep your family separate, have fun with them, have a place to just relax and cool down after a day knocking doors. But yeah, I've been really encouraged by the support of not only my family but friends, and knocking on doors, seeing past teachers. I got a message from my preschool teacher the other day saying, I'm with you.
That's cool.
It's great awesome to see the community really rally around giving given me a shot here. So, it's been really encouraging. I'm going to keep running the campaign that I'm running. We have a really great team that I'm proud of the work we're doing so far, and we're gonna sprint all the way through the finish line on November 3rd.
Yeah, and shout out to Amanda, aka Cats on a Couch. I saw you chat
Mm-hmm.
with her, so I really appreciate her utilizing her platform for for the good of the world, the good of Massachusetts as well. But what is kind of off topic? What does Jack do when he's not out there running for
Sure.
a Mass State rep position? When he's not
Yeah.
breaking down on the side of the road and
Yeah,
pushing his
right.
car and waiting for AAA to show up? What is it? What is it
Yeah.
you do? Is it sports?
Yeah.
Is it hiking? What is it?
And just again, shouts out Amanda Cats on a Couch. I actually met her. I was volunteering for the local Democratic Party, and she came in and was like, "Hey, I want to knock doors. By the way, I got this Instagram page." So it was really cool talking with her. And actually, I'm running to be her representative. She's represented by a Republican. So if anyone knows her page and the work she's done, if you want to help her get a Democratic representative,
She does a lot for a lot of people in communities. She does a lot of good work. I was fortunate enough to get about 13 seconds to say hi backstage at the Dropkick Murphys concert in Boston at the House of Blues on St. Patrick's Day, but it was so chaotic and so many people around. I didn't really get the opportunity to say thanks and to to say what's up and stuff like that. But yeah, shout out to Amanda.
But yeah, to answer your question, I try every Monday and Wednesday to play basketball at the Boys and Girls Club in Mashpee. We got a good group of guys aged. Our youngest is 20. Our oldest is actually 75. Corner threes only. Celtics could have used them the other day. Some of those looks in the last 5 minutes.
What did you think of the starting lineup? I mean, the three guys that have never played a second together at the whole season. We're gonna throw them out game 7 to start the game. What are we doing here?
I mean, Joe Mazzulla, I respect his willingness to kind of do crazy things, but I think
to break the mold.
Yeah, it's worked, and you live by the 3, you die by the 3 too. I like Ron Harper Jr. A lot, but yeah, I mean, look, you have Joel Embiid going up against, we traded away Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford.
Right. And then you got the Bruins just really kicked us in the teeth.
Yeah,
we went from like a really hopeful position one day to not looking very good the next day.
Yeah.
But again, I'll let you go on with what do you do outside of politics when you're not running for stuff besides besides dunking on old guys at the Y.
Yeah, big. It's honestly, it might be more the other way around. But big Boston sports fan. I for my work, I originally, before I had to resign, I worked at the State House. I was the district director for our area's state senator, so essentially a body double. So if he had to be in Boston or if he had to be in Plymouth, I would cover for him on the Cape. So really already getting to know the communities that work here. One of my favorite things about the Upper Cape is we have a really strong volunteer community and culture here. So, I try to volunteer as much as I can. The other day, I joined the East Falmouth Village Association. We did a cleanup day where we cleaned up. We did 28 bags of trash along Route 28. So I try to do that. And, I've been privileged enough where I try to travel, every 6 or 7 months if I can. And kind of see just to change a pace, but also try to see what are other countries doing better or other parts of the
What was your last destination?
My last destination, I was in Taiwan, in Hong Kong. Right before I decided to run, I went over there. And it was fascinating the train system in both places.
I know it really is crazy to watch people like places like Switzerland, Japan, where just these other places that utilize high-speed rail or just amazing ways of transportation to get around these areas that they live in, and a lot of them are mountainous, so we don't really have too many excuses around here for not utilizing the knowledge, the know-how, and the resources that we have to better help people get from point A to point B, so we maybe don't have to rely upon gas prices and fuel as we are right now.
Especially here on the East Coast, when you have Boston, New York, Philly, DC in a straight line, basically. There's no reason why we can't upgrade and have high-speed rail. The places I was able to go when I was abroad and how quickly I was able to go them. it really showed how much.
So you do it
how
better
much
than I
needed
do.
was there.
Last place I was when I was abroad was a war zone. I was in Kyiv. I was in Ukraine. So
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
next time I get the opportunity to take a trip outside the country, I don't know. Maybe I'll just go back there. You never know. I've been trying to get back there to do some coverage of the war, but it's not as
Yeah.
easy as one would think. But it's cool to see that you get the opportunity to travel and to see the way other cultures function, because it gives you a lot of insight, right? It opens
Right.
your mind a lot of the way that we talk about, like how, kids going to college, right? Gives them a lot of opportunity to grow. You know what I mean? Whether it's getting exposed to different cultures or getting exposed to different types of people or whatever it may be. It has a way of, broadening the
Yeah.
mind, broadening the horizons, and kind of opening up new
Definitely.
doors for people. And if you could bring some of that knowledge and passion back to your local community and say, hey, maybe we could implement this idea that I saw here right now, right, in this area right now, and now people could benefit from it. I think it's
Yeah.
it's got its benefits, definitely,
Yeah.
and how you could utilize that for local politics. So
And the other thing I'm doing that also really helps me prepare for local politics is I'm a U.S. soccer referee. I've been refereeing for about 10 years now, so that keeps me prepared, because there's nothing like
you
a
definitely would have given me a red card or two in my days.
seventh grade, nothing like a grade 6 parent, from Fall River to New Bedford, yelling at you in Portuguese. So
That was my dad. Well, not the Portuguese,
Yeah.
but that would have been my dad. If it
Yeah.
was English, you said, that was definitely my
Yeah.
dad getting, giving the earful to the ref, whether it
Yeah.
was on the ice or the football field or the
Mhm.
soccer pitch. Didn't matter where it was. He was
Yeah.
definitely making his presence
I
known.
know. That's really prepared me for politics and getting into any fight. I was a goalkeeper. I played club soccer in college. I got a fair few red cards myself. So it is what it is. Unfortunately I would go up to the referees, and I have on my phone the laws of the game. So I would go up to them and I would point out what law they got wrong after the call. So
That is
I'm a
definitely
victim of it too.
That's somebody that was built to be a politician, though. I feel like, you know what I mean. Like if you're going that far on the pitch, you need a top
Yeah.
spot somewhere. So, no, I really do appreciate you taking the time out. Like I said, in case people didn't hear, you were dealing with a breakdown today and still made it work. So I really do appreciate you for taking the time out. If you could just kind of let the chat know your social media handles, and again, maybe the websites and any place that they could donate or contribute or help your campaign in any way, shape, or form, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's at Jack Richardson MA on pretty much all platforms. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads. We try to post everywhere so people can see us. If you can go to I'll just type it in for the tag, jackprichardson.com. Learn more about me. If you can contribute $1 to $2 to $5, whatever you can today, I'd really appreciate it. This is going to be an expensive campaign. I'm running against member of Republican leadership. So anything you can do. And if you can't give money, if you can give time, if you go to jackrichardson.com/volunteer or the link in the chat and sign up to volunteer, we can set up based on your needs and your abilities, what you folks prefer to do, to join us. And Brian, I want to thank you for how you used your platform to, kind of call out what's happening in DC, but also promote local progressive candidates like myself, because it's really important. One thing that we've really seen in this country is kind of the death of journalism, and how journalists have been increasingly corporatized. So it's really important to have independent sources and independent podcasts and live streams like this one, so people can get their information. So I really, really appreciate the work you're doing too.
Likewise, my man. I appreciate the kind words. We do try to do it the independent route here. We don't have any sponsors, backers, outside helpers, or doing anything that buying us ad spots or anything, trying to promote us or anything like that. So it's built off of the the community here and people seeing benefit in the show and kind of recognizing the same thing that you recognize, and that the massive problem right now with mainstream media and how poorly that is treating and doing their job as far as keeping the American public informed in that regard. So I appreciate you, mentioning that, and obviously taking the time out here. I will do whatever I can to help you. If you have something that you need to promote, if you have something coming up where you want to get a message out, feel free to shoot a text. We spoke to Craig Swallow as well, another representative from Massachusetts as well. So I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm happy to use this platform, to help promote all of the progressive candidates, whether it be local elections or statewide or federal. It doesn't matter what it is. So, we appreciate you taking the time out. And like I said, you're welcome back anytime you get the open invitation. Just let us know if there's any way that we can help here at Blunt Politics. All right. And good luck with the car. Hopefully it's nothing big. Hopefully it's nothing big.
Look, it means I'm going to be knocking doors at least for the next few days. So
you'll be on an e-scooter.
Exactly, right? Yeah, biking around. So
cool. All right, brother. You take care. Enjoy the rest of
Brian.
Thanks again for taking the time out, dude.
Awesome. Have a good rest of the show.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Jack Richardson, appreciate him, and good luck. Again, any way that you can help support, if you could follow him on his social medias, that would be very, very, very much appreciated. Again, any way we can utilize this platform for the benefit of different communities all over the place, whether it be in our home state, the places in where we live, or different places in the country, then we're going to try to do it. So appreciate you guys in the chat. Make sure you guys hit that like button. We got a fantastic second half of the show. It's going to get chaotic. Again, we're going to try to sift through the bullshit, the lies, the propaganda of what's out there right now to figure out what the hell's happening. We kind of called this to a certain extent by kind of reading, watching one of the Twitter accounts that we pulled up the other day, where they basically said, and we'll go through it. I don't want to kind of put the cart before the horse there, but where they basically said that they were going to try to separate this into two wars, Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump. And that seems to be exactly what they're doing with the Project Freedom now. They're now trying to give this, an entirely different name. They're trying to give it an entirely different outlook, entirely different goals. So now, again, we can put the timeout on the clock that's supposed to give the Congress the ability to approve or deny the continued use of military force. But there's a ton that we're going to have to get into, a lot of clips, a lot of bullshit. So hopefully we can cram it into the second hour. But make sure you hit that like button. What do you say we say hi to the chat? What's going on, Mark? I see you down there. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, all the work that you're doing down there. What's up, Synth? How are you? What's up, Luck Dragon? What's going on, Wes? What's going on, Dame? What's up, Gen05? How are you? Frank, what's up, my man? What's up, Yakov? What's up, Bob? Hey, Rachel, how are you? What's going on? Appreciate you. Good to see you in there. What's going on, Anton? What's up, Roxanne? Alyosha, hope you're doing well in there. What's up, Jeff? Appreciate you guys as always. As always, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not. A lot of people do tend to watch and they're not subscribed. Maybe you think you're subscribed. Maybe you feel like you clicked that button at one point, and maybe you even did. But maybe check that out just to make sure you double check. A lot of the times people, don't realize that they haven't hit that subscribe button yet, but they want to. You know what I mean? They want to. So, all right, let's dive on to what we're going to be covering here in the old second half of the show, which is a lot of this nonsense, the bullshit. We're going to be sifting through different statements from, hopefully if I don't freeze in the meantime. Is anything working? Hello? Something worked? There you go. Am I on? How you doing? Hello? All right. I'm back. I'm back. I was frozen for a second there. I was frozen like the Disney movie. All right. I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm going to get rid of a couple of these things here. I know Roxanne's going to be screaming at me. You should have watched that video that I wanted you to watch. Would have told you how to do this. And again, speaking of which, shout out to the patrons. Thank you so much for showing up last night to the Zoom meeting. Had a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. I think we went almost 3 hours last night. 3 hours we went. All right, let me throw this on the screen because I do believe I have it working at this point in time. And then we'll do a little bit of this. All right, so we're going to get into what's been taking place over the last 48 hours. Again, the implementation of Project Freedom to try to disguise the chaos, the debacle, the failures of Donald Trump's administration and Pete Hegseth as far as the United States military and their goals they haven't obtained, their goals they haven't achieved yet in the Iran war. Well, now again, they're trying this whole end around move where it's not a war, it's not a ceasefire. It's also like a second half. This is the second half. Don't stop the clock. No, Congress should not have the ability to authorize or deny the continued use of military force. But Donald Trump loves to say that the United States went in, they cleared a path. Pete Hegseth in his press conference that we'll take a look at a couple of his ridiculous statements that he made, decided to tell you that it's wide open. Right, we've painted a red, white, and blue dome over it, or whatever fucking Pete Hegseth decided to say. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Meanwhile, we got the UAE port of Fujairah being struck. Iran sent up 12 cruise missiles, drones, etc. U.S. ships being targeted. You know what I mean? It's like it's just everything we see coming out of the other side, and the video evidence flies in the face of what Pete Hegseth tells us, Donald Trump tells us, and this is just one piece of evidence to suggest that and to prove that. This is, again, the UAE's Fujairah on fire following Iranian attack today, again, depicting and basically showing that the bombs have continued once again to be dropped. Whether it's Apache helicopters, whether it's Iran shooting into the UAE, whether it's U.S. ships, whether it's, South Korean ships, bombs and the missiles and the drones, they have continued to start flying once again. Here's just a really quick clip detailing some of the damage of one of the strikes here. Again, this is in the Fujairah port. Let's see if I can, for some reason, get the computer to work. Get that to play would be fantastic. Any day now would be great at some point in time. Let me get rid of that one as well. Come on. What's the dealio? Let's play. There we go. Play. This website sucks. Come on. I'm just asking you to play. It's a minute long. Shouldn't be that difficult, Twitter. Shouldn't be that difficult. Really, really shouldn't be that difficult. All you got to do is just play the video. There we go. That was it? That's all you're going to give me? Good Lord almighty. All right. No, this is a head scratcher. So again, these strikes continue to be downplayed by the Pentagon, by CENTCOM, by Pete Hegseth, by Donald Trump, but what clearly looks to be a pretty substantial fire there at the UAE port of Fujairah, as has been depicted and told in the news reports. But there's a ton of these things that you could look at. There's let me throw this one on the screen as well. Share this tab. This is what Donald Trump decided to put on his Truth Social. He says, Iran has taken some shots at unrelated nations with respect to ship movements. Project Freedom, again, this ridiculous new name that he's trying to give it. I didn't think it was going to happen. I'm not to don't want to get ahead of myself. It's crazy that we talked about it just the other day, and now they're actually doing it. It just blows my mind. It really does. But they talk about Project Freedom, including a South Korean cargo ship. Perhaps it's time for South Korea to come and join the mission. We've shot down several small boats, and we'll get into that because apparently they weren't the boats that Donald Trump and the U.S. military thought they were, now being reported allegedly that they were civilian boats. And it says here, other than the South Korean ship, there has been, at this moment, no damage going through the strait. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane will have a news conference tomorrow, in which happened today, which we'll have a couple of clips from, taking a look at that. But, they're trying to make it seem like the strait is wide open. Everything is going swimmingly. Everything's fine. All of the ships are making it through. Meanwhile, I think 2 ships made it through the day before. I think it was like 6 ships. So we're still down to like single digit ships, no matter where, no matter what we're talking about, getting through the strait, which is in no way going to alleviate the stress put on the world economy, put on the oil market right now. And, the reason that you're paying the prices at the gas pump that you're paying right now. There's just no way that single digit ships going through there is like the goal of the United States military. So either some escalation as far as the actions on the U.S. side is going to take place, or we're just going to we're just going to stay in this stalemate of maybe 1, 2, 5, 6 ships going through. This whole thing, this whole Project Freedom thing was kind of misreported right off the bat, whether it was Donald Trump coming out and basically portraying this as like an escort mission, like the United States military, the United States Navy was going to escort each one of these vessels or a group of these vessels through the strait. That's what everybody thought from Donald Trump's words and his rhetoric and speech and what he said. Meanwhile, just after that, the military had to come out, CENTCOM had to come out and basically do the whole, like what Republican politicians do the entire time that Donald Trump's been in power. Well, I know that's what he said, but what he really meant to say was this. And then they kind of changed the tune, basically making it as like an Overwatch type of mission where, they'd be close by. And if any of the ships, if any of the vessels needed the United States assistance, then they would be, within the locale, they would be kind of close by to help with that, but they weren't directly going to escort every single one of the ships through. And then we found out that the United States had sent 2 destroyers through the strait. And then we heard that the Iranian side said, well, I don't know what the fuck you think you're doing that for. We're going to start shooting shit. And that's exactly what they did. And then you got Donald Trump on the other side saying that he's again going to blow them off the face of the earth if they decided to shoot at, the ships or the United States or anything. And then you got the Iranians saying, okay, bet, hold my beer. And then they decided to launch, missiles, drones, into these, into cargo ships, into the UAE, into different ports. And again, Donald Trump sitting there with his, little mushroom pecker in his hand, not knowing what the next move should be. So again, we continue to see, and we'll hear again from Dan Kane and Pete Hegseth in their little press conference that they gave, see if they give any more insight as to what the next action might be. But this was from the Hormuz letter, which we've been kind of tracking on Twitter as well. This is just, I want to go through a couple of these posts that have been on here. This is talking about the IRGC has ordered all ships at Ras Al Khaimah and Mina Sakar in the UAE to immediately move to Dubai, warning that consequences are their responsibility if they do not comply. And again, this was the 3rd, so just a couple days ago, and I want to work my way up to current time. But this says, a source to Galibaf, MB Galibaf, which we'll also take a look at, says Iran has begun initial military actions to lift the U.S. naval blockade. Right? We continue because it goes on to say here, in direct response to Trump's new U.S. Navy operation, Iran's National Security Commission Chairman Azizi says any U.S. interference with the Strait of Hormuz will be considered a violation of the ceasefire, dismissing Trump's Project Freedom announcement as delusional post and rejecting any blame-shifting scenarios per Tasnim. The blame-shifting Azizi rejects refers to Trump's framing of Project Freedom as a humanitarian and freedom of navigation operation, which lets him argue Iran blocking the mission would be the war-initiating act, allowing him to authorize U.S. strikes on Iran without congressional approval. This works around his 60-day war authorization, which expired May 1st. And again, these are all speculations, but seemingly coming true as far as some of the speculations that we talked about, because just the renaming of this as Project Freedom, just them talking about this as a secondary act, something that, we can't continue to calculate the days based off of the original action, based off of the original Operation Epstein Fury. No. That has its own timeline. That ended. This has its own timeline now as far as Operation fucking Freedom or whatever the hell it's called, Project Freedom. And now we have to start that clock over, thus trying to work and end around the congressional authorization they're supposed to be seeking. And this looks like to be another way in which they're kind of throwing the hook out there, right? They're throwing the bait out, hoping that somebody takes the bait, that the Iranians do something in which that the Trump regime could use as justification to continue their war without congressional approval here. This goes on to say here, and this is all on May 3rd, it says a tanker was attacked by multiple unknown projectiles on the Oman corridor of the Strait of Hormuz, 78 nautical miles north of Fujairah, UAE, per UK MTO. The attack happened just before Trump announced the unilateral U.S. Navy operation in the Strait of Hormuz. Almost like they knew it was coming, right? Almost like they have a tap on Donald Trump's phone or something. It goes on here to talk about the UAE has issued a nationwide phone alert across Dubai and Sharjah, warning civilians of potential missile threats and instructing them to immediately seek a safe place in the closest secure building, per UAE's Ministry of Interior. Again, these are the warnings coming up as Iran says, hey, the United States isn't doing what we want them to do. The United States is still effectively, implementing their blockade. Now they're sending ships through the strait, trying to allow these ships to cross without the authorization of the Iranians. So now we're going to start lobbing shit into these areas again, in which they did, like I said, at least 12 cruise missiles that we can confirm at this point, and I'm sure even more since I pulled that reporting up this morning. But this also goes on to talk about a South Korean vessel has been attacked by the IRGC in the Strait of Hormuz, very close to the UAE coast, per Yonhap. The attack triggered UAE missile alerts across Dubai and Sharjah, which were cleared after the missiles hit the vessel and not UAE territory. The IRGC Navy has subsequently broadcast on Maritime Emergency Channel 16 that the Strait of Hormuz is closed to all vessels of any nationality or type, warning that any ship crossing, quote, will be destroyed. And again, there's a lot of peacocking going on both sides in this fight. So probably also something that we should keep in mind. This also says ballistic missile launch from Isfahan, Iran. Again, alerting to the launches released by the IRGC, by the Iranians, in retaliation for the United States not complying with their demands. This goes on to talk about the IRGC says no commercial ships or tankers have passed through the Strait of Hormuz in the past few hours, calling U.S. officials' claims baseless and complete lies. Earlier today, CENTCOM claimed 2 U.S. flag vessels successfully transited the strait under Project Freedom. And again, 2 is not going to change this, right? 2 is not going to break the stalemate. 2 is not going to open the floodgates as far as these other ships, right? Regardless of what Pete Hegseth says as far as a red, white, and blue dome he's putting over this fucking strait, right? There's not a captain out there. There's probably not an insurance company out there that's going to be willing right off the jump to be sending their ships, to be sending their people, right? To be sending their commodities, to be sending their oil through the strait. In case they hit a mine, in case the IRGC decides to say, okay, no, we told you not to pass, so we're going to prove that you can't pass. I don't think they want to be the first ones out there necessarily. So this also goes on to talk about multiple loud reported explosions around the port of Jebel Ali in Dubai, the largest U.S. Navy port outside of the United States. Numerous explosions reported in Dubai at the ports of Jebel Ali and Fujairah defenses engage incoming missiles. A cargo ship reported a fire in its engine room 36 nautical miles north of Dubai. Again, these are just incoming reports bringing us up to the current moment. This is breaking the Fujairah report. That's the one that we were just looking at. Let's see here. There was also one of these that I think we should take with a grain of salt as well, that was purporting to be the cargo ship that was actually attacked. I did see a couple of these. I did see a couple of accounts suggesting that it was, maybe it was this one, that it was video footage or footage of a ship that was hit earlier on in this conflict. So again, you got to make sure to take everything you see here with a grain of salt and make sure you can confirm and corroborate everything that you see in here. Here's one from MB Galabaf, as we've been taking a look at to try to figure out what the hell is going on. Let's see here. He is the Speaker of the Islamic Republic of Iran's parliament, and he says here 13 hours ago, he put on there, the new equation of the Strait of Hormuz is in the process of being solidified. The security of shipping and energy transit has been jeopardized by the United States and its allies through the violation of the ceasefire and the imposition of a blockade. Of course, their evil will diminish. We know full well that the continuation of the status quo is intolerable for America, while we have not even begun yet. So again, not a capitulation type, a message there. Basically a message in clear defiance, as we've been talking about, flying in the face of everything Donald Trump says. They're sending us letter after letter and fax after fax, email after email, just begging us to stop doing what we're doing, begging to capitulate. Again, doesn't seem to be, what we're seeing as far as taking place in reality with the messages, with the content, with the rhetoric coming from the leaders, the spokespeople from the Iranian side. Here's another one. And this kind of brings us into the the correct prediction aspect of the show. This is the Dolphin Iran account that we've been taking a look at, who seemingly has some insight and access to some sections of the Iranian leadership, or is just really good at predicting what the hell happens. But he's been spot on. He or she has been spot on a few times now as predicting or calling what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. But this is one we brought up the other day, right? It says here the U.S. government intends to argue to Congress that in event of a new conflict, the previous conflict had ended and this is a new war. You guys remember that, where I said I wouldn't put it past this administration? Like I put up my hand and said I haven't heard anything yet as far as this being the case, but I wouldn't put it past this administration. Well, what do you think this whole Operation or Project Freedom is, right? It's their end around. It is their new war. It is their, second chapter. We can't put this with the first chapter. This isn't Operation Epstein Fury anymore. This is a whole new thing. This is Project Freedom. So we can't rightly be seeking congressional approval, congressional authorization until 60 days of this new war, of this new action, right? So it's crazy to see, and this was posted May 2nd when this was posted on this account here. So it's crazy to see that, it's now Pete Hegseth saying the exact same thing, right? And we'll go back because there's a couple other pieces of information I want to point to here. But this is the exact moment where Pete Hegseth tries to announce, and again, this is different. This is different from Pete Hegg saying that we have a ceasefire so that the clock should stop, right? This is a Project Freedom with whole different sets of goals, whole new achievements that we're going after. So there's no possible way Congress could, be authorized to intervene in this just yet. Here he is at his press conference, I believe this morning, if I'm not mistaken, talking about this new war, this new segment that they're undertaking and how it should be treated differently. Check this out.
Well, as you know, President Trump has directed U.S. Central Command to restart the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz under the umbrella of Project Freedom. To be clear, this operation is separate and distinct from Operation Epic Fury.
You hear that? It is separate and distinct, right? So clear fucking rhetoric, clear message being sent where this isn't, this isn't a part of, this is totally separate from Operation Epstein Fury, which they've completely and totally failed in. So you can see how this is like the new war, right? They might not be calling it that. They might not saying, "Hey, this is the new war we've started," but along the same lines as what Dolphin Iran there was talking about, we could possibly see from this administration trying to go around Congress, trying not to seek congressional approval, doing everything they possibly can to work around basically that authorization that Congress is supposed to have in order to continue this or to stop this fucking madness. Right. So they're doing everything they possibly can. And this is kind of the clearest example that I could find of them, trying to distinctly make this a separate action. He goes on here.
Project Freedom is defensive in nature, focused in scope, and temporary in duration, with one mission: protecting innocent commercial shipping from Iranian aggression. American forces won't need to enter Iranian waters or airspace. It's not necessary. We're not looking for a fight, but Iran also cannot be allowed to block innocent countries and their goods from an international waterway. Iran is the clear aggressor, harassing.
No, that's the fucking issue. They're not. They weren't the aggressor. They were actually the ones coming to the negotiating table. As you and fucking Bibi and Donald Trump were planning your attack, they were coming into the negotiating table to talk to the United States. So how could they be, again, when you guys lobbed the first missiles, you guys sent in the first bombs, you guys decided to hit the girls' school in Manab, how were they the aggressors? You know what I mean? And shame on you for making for making me come out here and sound like I'm in defense of this whatsoever, this regime over there in Iran whatsoever as well, because we're not. But the fact is, it's clear cut who in this instance was the aggressor. You know what I mean? Which was the United States in conjunction with Israel, right? In their attacks. It's the rewriting of history, even though it's like, what, fucking 62 days ago at this point? Like, it wasn't all that long ago, Pete. We don't forget. People don't forget, Pete.
Civilian vessels, threatening mariners from every nation indiscriminately, and weaponizing a critical choke point for its own financial benefit, or at least trying to.
So again, basically not taking into account that, as he says there, he's not sending ships into Iran's waterways, that Iran has now basically taken total control over the strait, just not even addressing that whatsoever, just kind of, again, trying to rewrite the history already of Operation Epstein Fury and its failures now, and trying to portray this as its like own separate entity, its own separate action, and basically start that clock again, as far as 60 days and when Congress has the authority to act to, again, approve or disapprove of the continued military force that Donald Trump, Bibi Netanyahu, and obviously Pete Hegseth have initiated in this war. There's a bunch of moments from this as well in Pete Hegseth's little press conference that he had this morning. I don't know if I'm going to bore you with it as much, though. I think that was kind of, well, I'll play this one because this is one of the more, shut up, I said. This is one of the more ridiculous ones. This is where he tries to say, we'll play this one and we'll go on from this, where he says there's a red, white, and blue dome over the strait. Again, that strait in which, ships are too afraid to cross because of either the mines or the drones or the missiles or the military capabilities in general, the fast attack boats that Iran still has. That one. Apparently, it's got a red, white, and blue dome over it. And again, how stupid that is up for you to determine. So check this out. Here's it.
As a direct gift from the United States to the world, we have established a powerful red, white, and blue dome over the strait. American destroyers are on station, supported by hundreds of...
What is it with these assholes in fucking colored domes? You know what I mean? Like, Israel's got the Iron Dome. Donald Trump wants the Golden Dome. Now we got a red, white, and blue dome over the... Like, these fucking people are so childish, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? The Strait of fucking Trump. The Gulf of Trump. The Gulf of America. Shut the fuck up. These people. I am so sick and tired of these fucking childish snowflake motherfuckers, right? Unbelievable that they made it to this fucking point. This proximity to power that they now have, the control that they now have, and the danger they now pose. Like, these fucking people just never cease to amaze me at how fucking childish they actually are.
Fighter jets, helicopters, drones, and surveillance.
Yeah, fighter jets, helicopters, tanks, and boom booms, and guns, and big things, and bullets, and bombs. Like, this guy, he just, he can't hide his fucking skin-ripping boner that he gets every time he talks about, bloodshed, war, shit being dropped on schools. Like, he can't contain his excitement.
Aircraft providing 24/7 overwatch for peaceful commercial vessels.
So, again, Overwatch, right, which, again, is in direct contravention to what Donald Trump was talking about as far as Project Freedom was supposed to entail, which was, again, as Donald Trump was saying, the basically the safe passage and kind of the escorting of all of these ships through the strait in with the U.S. military, with the U.S. Navy, and again having to correct him and say, no, that's not actually what we meant. That's not actually what we're doing. What he really meant to say was,
except Iran's, of course. Which is why our ironclad blockade remains in full effect as well.
Yes, the ironclad blockade of the already blockaded Strait of Hormuz. That was international waterways and free and open, and $55 a barrel was oil before the war started. But now, full control by the Iranians. We're actually, like I just said, blockading a blockade, which is, again, just a strange place to be at. I'll have you know.
Well, in fact, 6 ships tried to run the blockade out of Iranian ports as Project Freedom commenced, and they were all turned around.
Except for that one that made it, all the way to the Far East and was going to make it to China. And again, doesn't also bring up the different routes now, the land routes being afforded to the Iranians by, Pakistan, different ways in which that the Iranians are able to, again, get this oil, through its land routes to its different, ports or to its different, end goals, its end places to make money from it. And no, obviously this isn't, beneficial for them. It's definitely not the way in which they want to be doing it. But who can last longer, I guess, is like kind of where we're at. Can Iran last longer, just using their land routes without kind of being able to sell their oil to the extent that they were, with it still stacking up on Karg Island? Are they willing to take and risk the damage to their oil infrastructure? Or is it, again, going to hurt the world economy? Is it going to put more pressure on the United States and different, places around the globe to end this before the Iranians feel the pinch from this, right? So it's kind of like a war of attrition at this point in time. Like, who can suffer the longest is probably going to win. And again, who's going to be willing to let Donald Trump risk the American people and their suffering for how long? Like, there's no off ramp, there's no time frame. Again, that we can't just do this whole, like, gas prices are going to go up exponentially for the foreseeable future. Like, there has to be some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, but the Pentagon, Donald Trump, nobody in this administration can give the American people, or the people of the world, for that matter, that light at the end of the tunnel. And again, it seems like more and more likely that escalation is going to happen, like we've been seeing already, as the bombs being dropped on the UAE, people being shot inside of the Strait. The United States seemingly have to take out the boats that they said that they were taking out. Again, we'll do some deep diving into that reporting coming up. But let's take a look at here what the foreign minister of the Islamic Republic of Iran was saying as well, just so we can get some more insights. Let's see here. Frozen again, for crying out loud. I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to get rid of this one. That should make it a little better. All right, let's throw this one on the screen. This is from Syed Abbas Argachi, as we've been taking a look at. So his last post here was from about 21 hours ago, and he says, events in Hormuz make clear that there's no military solution to a political crisis. As talks are making progress with Pakistan's gracious effort, the United States should be wary of being dragged back into a quagmire by ill-wishers. So should the UAE. Project Freedom is Project Deadlock. Again, not really the words, not really the statement of a country that's willing to capitulate, that is willing to give up their control over the Strait of Hormuz by any stretch of the imagination. Just not what we're seeing. There was a quick clip here I wanted to play from Fox News as well, where they were talking about what was taking place, and kind of the statements by Donald Trump to threaten once again to wipe anybody that shot at the United States off the face of the earth. Meanwhile, Iran did just that, and there's been no kind of reaction from the big, strong alpha man, Fuhrer himself, Donald Trump, to back up his strong words. But this is just kind of, I think, a minute segment here by Fox News talking about Donald Trump's statements in this situation. Check this out.
Iran. He talked about Project Freedom and the U.S. efforts to guide vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, issuing a new warning to the Iranian regime, saying if the Iranians try to target U.S. ships in this area, they will be, quote, blown off the face of the earth. Remember, this was a project implemented by the Americans overnight to assist the hundreds of vessels that are currently trapped in.
It's strange considering Donald Trump on his own Truth Social platform had to go out and say that the Iranians were not only targeting the UAE, but also targeting, I believe he specified, a South Korean cargo vessel as well. So again, talking about how they did exactly what he said if they were going to do, he was going to blow them off the face of the earth. Meanwhile, just posting about it. Really no strong reaction, no backing up his strong rhetoric. Once again, taco, Trump, chickens out is basically the theme of the situation. And again, in this point in time, as we've continued to see, it's probably a good thing that he continues to be a bitch as well. But he goes on here on this account talking more bollocks here from Donald Trump.
The Persian Gulf. We're talking about more than 20,000 sailors. And the president told Fox he's doing this for humanity. Some of these sailors were running out of food and supplies on these vessels due to the Iranian threats that are ongoing in this area. And again, the president saying
that's something that we've reported on here. I mean, how long these people have been holed up here. And again, that goes for the United States Navy as well. We've been talking about kind of the accommodations, if you will, on some of these ships, on some of the amphibious ships, on some of the aircraft carriers, and the lack of nutrition in the meals that they were getting. Some of the ships have had fire problems. Some of the ships have had people go missing. Some of the ships have had people fall overboard. I believe there was even more recently, a missing person during an exercise as well. So, a lot of these things not only boding poorly for the ships, the cargo vessels, and the civilian craft, excuse me, in the Strait of Hormuz, but also for the U.S. military that has been stationed there for quite some time now.
That if U.S. ships in the region are targeted, the Iranians will be blown off the face of the earth. Now, I also asked President Trump about the possibility of negotiations with Iran succeeding. He said the Iranians are being far more malleable than they were being in the past, showing flexibility given the U.S. pressure that continues.
Now, we've gone over a few statements from the foreign ministry. We've gone over some of the spokespeople from the Iranian side and what they've said. Do you see any malleability in that? Have we seen any willingness to capitulate, willingness
part
to
of the
negotiate?
American blockade of Iranian
willingness to speak to Donald Trump, willingness to give up on this threat, on this fight? Is that what we're seeing? I'm just saying, you guys come to your own conclusions. That's what we do here. Basically, I feed you, all of the statements from both sides, and then we come to our own conclusion on what we're seeing take place in reality on the ground, right? So is that what you guys have been noticing? Is that the theme that you guys would place upon the rhetoric coming from the Iranian side? Malleability. Are they malleable and willing to work with Donald Trump? Or are they saying, fuck no, as long as that blockade's in place, we're going to be lobbing missiles. As long as you guys think you can send your warships into the strait, we're going to be lobbing missiles. That seems to be more along the lines of what I heard, but, maybe you guys heard differently.
Reports, President Trump called that blockade the greatest military maneuver in history. As it relates to the
what an abject smack in the fucking face that is, right? The greatest military maneuver in history. Are we just not going to talk about D-Day? Are we just not going to talk about, just pick your poison as far as actions during World War II, World War I, Vietnam, right? Again, you can be against whatever action, you can be against whatever war we're talking about, right? But it doesn't mean you can't recognize the heroism. You can't recognize the incredible fucking maneuvers or tactics or abilities of either the allied militaries or obviously the United States military in some of these instances, right? One of the situations that comes to mind right off the bat as far as being like an unbelievable military maneuver would be George Patton and his Third Army's relief of Bastogne during World War II. Right? When he took some 260,000 of his troops in a totally different direction to go relieve the besieged troops at Bastogne that were, under threat of being surrounded by the German military. Like, that's an incredible military maneuver. That's an incredible military action. Again, the D-Day landings. To be able to get all of those ships together, the planes together, the paratroops, right? The landing craft. To get everything on the same time frame, to have the weather like those are fucking military feats, right? Those are incredible, if not the best military feats in history by any military. And to have Donald Trump talk about this fucking blockade that, again, only had to be enacted because of a problem that was fucking put into play because of his enacting of this war. Again, the Strait of Hormuz was wide the fuck open before this war. Again, barrels of oil cost $55 before this war started. I forget now what gas was at, but I can tell you right now it was a fuck lot less than it is right now before this war started. So we're trying to solve issues now that weren't issues before this war was fucking started by Benjamin Netanyahu, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump, and the rest of these fucking psychopaths. So the fact that he's now trying to laud this as like the best military accomplishment maneuver in history is just a fucking slap in the face to anybody that knows their history, right? And again, say what you will about the actions or anything that I named, and you can have your problems with it, and those are rightfully conversations that we could have. But again, there's no denying that like actions like this, again, Patton's drive to relieve Bastogne, is not far and away a greater accomplishment, much more technical. Again, you're talking about some, I believe, 250,000 troops, right? Just a little bit from this. On the morning of December 22nd, 1944, 6:30 a.m., Lieutenant General George Patton launched a two-pronged attack through the Ardennes forest into the left flank of the German offensive during the Battle of the Bulge. He had spent the last 4 days turning 2 of his 3 corps north to both relieve the besieged Belgian town of Bastogne and to recapture the Luxembourg town of Entenach. Right? While Bastogne seemed more urgent, where paratroopers from Brigadier General Andrew McAuliffe, who again you'll recall sent the message back to the German military when they asked him to surrender. That message just said one word. It said nuts, which again really confused the German military, but just went to show the resiliency of the Americans there and in that area and how they weren't going to give up. They weren't going to surrender. But again, it says here, if I'm not mistaken, the amount of troops you can see here on the map. Here's Patton's Third Army. Let me get out of the way so you guys can see this. And I'll just go through this real quick. We won't spend a ton of time on this, but I just want to relay how ridiculous it is of Donald Trump to call this, to applaud this as like the greatest military achievement in history. And again, this is just one of the actions. We could talk about D-Day rightly and all of the actions that took place on D-Day. But here's Patton's Third Army. You can see just where I was on the screen. And then if you go up here, you can see Bastogne, where it says 5th on the top middle of the screen, Bastogne just to the left. So, Patton basically, like it just said there, took 2 of his 3 corps, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, roughly about 250,000 men in a 90-degree turn from where they were originally going to, again, trek through snow, to trek through all of this terrain nonstop to make sure that they could get to Bastogne, to relieve the beleaguered men that were, again, either at that point surrounded or under threat of being surrounded. I think there was some, where were the numbers in this? I thought there was a couple paragraphs on here that gave me some numbers as far as how many people were involved. But again, it's kind of irrelevant to the point as far. Oh, here you go, right here. They must have some smart men running the show. Patton, too, had proved himself a smart man, having managed to move the bulk of his army, 250,000 men, from battling east along the River Saar to attacking north, an impressive feat in any terms. Worried about relieving Bastogne, he sent a message to Milliken that said advance was to be continued throughout the night. So pushing his men both day and night to make sure that they got there in time to relieve the people of Bastogne. Patton was satisfied, although not happy about the day's results. I should be content, which of course I am not, he wrote to his wife Beatrice, knowing the difficulties of attacking in a snowstorm. It's always hard to get an attack rolling, he penned in his diary. Yet he doubted if the Germans would be able to launch any kind of attack against him for the next 36 hours. I hope by that time we will be rolling. The men are in good spirits and full of confidence. And again, just some of the photographs here from this is the American Artillerymen Battery A of the 19th Field Artillery Regiment, 5th Infantry Division, posed with the 105 millimeter shells at ready. Their howitzers provided significant support for the 3rd Army drive to Bastogne, and American artillery performed superbly throughout World War II. So again, just one instance, one piece of evidence to kind of smack down as being incredibly asinine and ridiculous what Donald Trump is trying to applaud as, some of the greatest military achievements in history as far as a fucking blockade is concerned. Again, a blockade that, again, has been at a stalemate since it's fucking been implemented. Like, it's not even had like an immediate impact, right? They're still willing to put up with the hurt that it's causing as far as Iran, because they know at the same time their closure of the strait is putting hurt on not only us, but the rest of the world. And again, here's just some more footage here, some more pictures from the Battle of the Bulge, some surrendering German military, as you can see here, under watch of the Americans. This is German prisoners under watch of American soldiers of the 5th Infantry Division place hands on their heads. Hand the hook. These Germans were taken prisoner near the city of Echternach. Luxembourg, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that one. So again, just a little bit to detail, some of the passion for history kind of makes it a little bit easier to pull up these instances to make our president look like the fucking dumb fool that he is. Here's just some more of these pictures from this incredible action. The Battle of the Bulge in general, just one of the more obviously notable aspects of World War II. Kind of the biggest engagement for the U.S. forces in particular. Here's another one of Patton. George S. Patton, commander of the 3rd Army, meets Brigadier General Andrew McAuliffe, temporary commander of the 101st Airborne Division. After relief of Bastogne, McAuliffe gained fame with his reply nuts to a German surrender demand. And again, as kind of depicted in a lot of these movies, a few of them even going as far as to kind of detail them as being like, are they surrendering to us? Which I find hilarious every single time, right? Because the Germans went under white flag to present this offer of surrender to the Americans. And basically the Americans, being as stubborn as they were, as cocky as they were, basically weren't really sure if the Germans were surrendering to them or if they were asking them to surrender to the Germans. Kind of depicted as well in the movie Bridge Too Far with the British troops as well. The same type of thing. They were asked to surrender at one of the bridges. I believe it was Arnhem, if I'm not mistaken. And basically the British troops were jokingly or mockingly asking the Germans if they were surrendering to them, which I found to be incredibly funny at every single turn. But again, not to get off topic or anything, but for Donald Trump to, again, applaud this military disaster that he's undertaken with this war in Iran, and the blockade in general as being something that is like the best military action. And he's going to be the greatest military leader. He's just a military genius. Like, he's trying to like he's trying to lay the groundwork for this legacy, whether it's his name on fucking buildings, whether it's the gold in the White House, right? Whether it's the ballroom, the Kennedy Center in New York, again, the military actions, the strikes in Venezuela. Like he's trying to set the stage for this legacy of being like this brilliant military leader, this brilliant military commander, the brilliant mind, right? That was like loved by the people, even though it's himself. Like he's the only person that's putting his own name on buildings and like creating statues to himself type of thing. But again, he's trying to get that across to people. Where he knows that's damn sure not going to be the sentiment left when he finally takes his last breath. But this is, again, just some reporting by Drop Site News, who's been doing some pretty good reporting on this. On the boats that the United States claimed to have shot, this says Iran claims U.S. fired on civilian boats, killing 5, contradicting what CENTCOM said in their accounting. Iranian military sources told Tasnim, a news agency, that no IRGC naval vessels were hit on Monday, again, flying in the face of, I believe they said 6 vessels, 6 IRGC vessels were sunk or hit by, I believe it was Black Hawk helicopters and what were they, Seahawk helicopters, contradicting President Trump and CENTCOM's claim of destroying 6, boats, Iranian fast boats. Local investigations, they said, indicate U.S. forces instead opened fire on 2 small civilian boats carrying goods from Kasab, Oman, toward Iran, killing 5 civilians on board. Quote, they rushed in reckless action reflects heightened fear and anxiety amongst U.S. forces over IRGC fast boat operations. CENTCOM has not responded to the Iranian account. And again, that goes on with this original reporting coming from this account here, talking about the 5 civilians that were allegedly killed instead of the 6 fast attack boats by the IRGC that the United States says that they took out. So let's just see here if I can scroll up a little more and see if there's anything reported here by Drop Site. See if there's anything that we missed, anything that's been happening in the meantime since we've been on. Yeah, this is the take it with a grain of salt video that I was talking about. This is reported by Dropside. President Trump on True Social. Iran has taken some shots at unrelated nations with respect to the ship movement, Project Freedom, including a South Korean cargo ship, which we read. Perhaps it's time for South Korea to come and join the mission. We've shot down 7 small boats, or as they like to call them, fast boats. It's all they have left other than the South Korean ship. There has been, at this moment, no damage going through the Strait. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, yada, yada, yada. We'll be having a news conference like we talked about. This video has been associated with that strike. But like I said, take it with a grain of salt, because I've also seen reported that this is from an earlier attack, earlier impact from earlier on in this engagement, earlier on in this war. But again, the news remains the same of the South Korean ship being attacked, of the Iranians once again launching on cargo ships, once again launching into the UAE. So again, whether or not this is the exact video from that kind of is irrelevant. But just so in case anybody is seeing that going around social media or has posted it themselves or whatever, just so you know, take that with a grain of salt. I don't think that has been 100% confirmed as being the particular video associated with that attack yet. But let's just see if there's anything here that we could glance at, anything else that we've I'll go to their website. I'll just go to their site, hit refresh, see if there's anything that we missed. Because again, a lot of these things I've been putting together all morning, and you guys know how quickly the news changes. And I don't want to be that full on live and missing anything that's taking place. So what do you say we see if this can update real quick without freezing me out? Whoa. You know what the problem is? You know what the problem is? The problem is that I jinxed myself last night. That's the fucking problem. The problem is during the Zoom last night, I jinxed myself. I actually said it's been a long time since we've had issues. It's been a long time since we had some technical difficulties on the show, and I should have kept my fucking mouth shut. That's what I should have done. That's what the issue was. That's the problem, and I'm sticking with it. Everybody, Laurie, I said it. Fucking back me up here. You know it. I mean, when's the last time we actually had technical difficulties on this show, right? I bring it up last night as being like, oh, let's congratulate ourselves, right? Let's fucking pat on the back for not having technical difficulties. Talking to Jenny Faye about, hey, she's live streaming now. Isn't it like, it's a lot more difficult, like how awesome I'm doing without, no. And that fucking next day, smack in the face. Right there in the face, I get it. Right there in the face. Good Lord. Well, my apologies. Thank you guys for sticking with me. And again, Roxanne's going to have ample opportunity today to fucking tell, with the I told you so's. But what are you going to do? I don't understand. The deep state's coming to get me. I'm just happy that we got through the first half of the show with our great guest, Jack Richardson. I'll take all the drops I have to deal with as long as it's just me and we're not wasting anybody else's time. All right. Well, let's go into this. Let's hopefully I'm going to close out some things here just to be safe, right? Just to be safe. I'm going to close that one out. All right. So you stay. Be careful. Be good. Be careful. Be good. All right. Let's see if we can put this back on the screen. It was just just was going to go to the drop site news, see if, again, there was anything that we've missed while we've been on live. Anything new to report. Is this going to go on the stage? Yes, it will. All right. We're working, people. All right. So let's go to drop site, right? Okay. We'll do a refresh so that we can get the most up-to-date and accurate news. All right. Please work. Just please work. All right. Here we go. So this was 6 hours ago, 12 minutes ago. Let's see what's going on. That's from the Breaking Points. This is 2 hours ago from Murtaza Hussein. Says the UAE, spent weeks ostentatiously doubling down on its relationship with the U.S. and demanding escalation, only to be informed that bombing Dubai does not count as a ceasefire violation. Again, that was another point in which people were talking about in Pete Hegseth's press conference. He was again questioned on the state of the ceasefire. Again, when you have some 12 cruise missiles, I forget how many drones they said now, shot into the UAE, having to be defended against, interceptors being thrown out, cargo ships throughout the strait being hit. One would kind of have some evidence to suggest that would be like, a violation of the ceasefire. You know what I mean? Considering the firing was not ceased anymore. We have to be kind of, let's be on point here with what words actually mean, what these phrases actually mean. The ceasing of firing is what a ceasefire is. And if that fire is not ceasing, that's not a ceasefire. It's not that difficult for you to understand, I don't believe. But let's see here. There was a couple other things. Yeah, I know this is a little bit off topic, but I mean, to suggest why we're in this situation, I don't think you have to look much further than something like this. And again, we played this last night on the Zoom. But, again, Donald Trump's out there trying to tout his cognitive abilities, and it's backfiring every single time. Like, the older you get, the dumber you get, the more cognitively declined you are. Like, the worst thing you can do is try to, impress people. Like, it's just take it as it comes. That's all. You know what I mean? Just people recognize it is what it is at this point. But here he is once again trying to applaud himself for acing, as he says, this dementia test that he keeps applauding. And this time he tries to name the animals that were on, as he says, the first question, and he struggles to come up with the last animal he wants to name. Somehow pulls squirrel out of his ass. Don't ask me why. And then goes on to talk about how, nobody else in the room could take this test, while also saying that it's the easiest questions ever with the question that he brings up. But just check this out, this clip again, as in case anybody's wondering why we're in this ridiculous situation of paying exorbitant prices for gas, right? The instability in the Middle East, the most chaotic situation probably for oil prices in history. Why we're in that situation is because we have a guy whose fucking brain is melting out of his loafers every single day, every second of every day. Listen to this bullshit.
Administration. One of the things I said is that we should have, in my opinion, anybody running for president or vice president should take a cognitive test. And no president has ever taken one except me. I've taken 3 of them, and I've aced each one. 1 in the first administration, 2 over here. And whenever they get a little sassy, like, does he still have it? Does he still have what it takes?
No.
Say, all right,
The absolute answer is no. The easy, obvious, blatant answer is absolutely fucking not, nor did he ever have it. He's never been coherent enough. He's never been with it enough to hold this position. And it's gotten 10 times worse, 20 times worse, 100 times worse since that first moment when he came in, when he was already unqualified, when he was already incapable of holding or running this position. And it's gotten so much worse, as you guys have noticed.
I'll take another one. And they are hard. There are many people in this room I know that are smart. They're not going to ace them.
So this is how like mentally deficient he is, right? He starts off by saying how difficult it is, like applauding himself for, again, acing a dementia test, this Montreal test, that again, he just thinks that nobody knows what it is. He thinks that nobody knows what it is. He must. To continue to bring this up, you would have to believe that nobody could have access to this test, that like only your doctors know what this test says, which is just not the truth. There's not reality. We all know what test he took. We know what it's for. And it's not for, determining what your IQ is. It is determining if you're fucking, dementia riddled or not. That's what it's for. And again, he's proving his case every day as to why he has to continue to take it. You'll see in this clip. But he starts off, and again, this is how incoherent he is, by saying it's unbelievably tough. It's difficult. Nobody in this room can pass it, right? None of you people here are smart enough to pass it. While also, I'm in the next sentence going to tell you how easy the first question was, and that it's basically just, again, defining animals, while also talking about how difficult of a test this is. Again, how erratic, it's just he's so unstable at this point in time. A single sentence may contain 4 different points of view, and all of those points of view are conflicting. You know what I mean? At this point in time, listen to this nonsense. He can't even come up with the animals right off the bat.
There are many people standing back there, the fake news media, that I'd like to have them, the first question is very easy, and they always show the first question is, you have a lion, a bear, an alligator, and a squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel.
Okay?
Squirrel.
Which is the squirrel?
What? You just said how hard this test was. And in the next sentence, you said how easy the test was. Like, what are you talking about, Gramps? Somebody get this guy into the fucking home. Get him some oatmeal, right? The almond smell is overpowering at this point. He can smell nothing. He can't even smell the shit in his diaper at this point. He's got so much fucking almond smell going on in his nose, in the nostril area. Like, wheel this guy to the fucking home, put on The Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, and shut him in the room. That's it. It's over, folks. It's done.
So they show that question, and then the first 4 or 5 questions they get a little more difficult. By the time you get to the middle, they're tough. By the time you get to the end, I don't want to be insulting, but there won't be. I'm not going to do what Gavin Newsom said. We saw him.
Again, can't finish his thought. Already on to Gavin Newsom, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, whatever name popped into his head again. It's just, again, the how erratic he is so evident to everybody at this point in time, which is why I continue to say anybody supporting this is not doing it out of, they're not coming from an angle of actually believing what they're supporting, but it's because they've, again, dug this hole so deep. They've put themselves in such a position with their friends, family, co-workers. They've lost jobs. They've lost relationships. They've lost job opportunities. They've been fucking fired from their job, whatever it may be. Like, they've dug this hole so deep that now they have no, the only option they have is to continue digging down, and hopefully they come out somewhere on the other side. Right, they're so deep into the hole that they can't climb back out. They can't say I was lied to. Some people can. We've played a few of them, whether it's the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or again the constituents that can't pay for their gas, so they recognize that they've been lied to. Whatever it may be, the construction workers down in South Texas that were like, oh my God, I can't believe that I can't find workers, that I'm struggling to find jobs to do because of Donald Trump's policies that he's implemented and what ICE is doing down here. Like, we thought we were going to be saved. We thought we were going to be in this like safe cocoon, this big bubble that wasn't going to, it wouldn't affect us. You know what I mean? So a lot of that taking place, a lot of that going around as well. But let's see here. There's a few more of these. We played this one. Oh, I didn't play this one, but I showed this on the when I was talking to our guest in the first half. My apologies. When we were talking to Jack Richardson, this is when Donald Trump says he's going to take over Cuba. He's going to take over Cuba. Or did I play this now? I'm forgetting. My apologies. But just real quick.
Good job. An architect who's really talented. He's done a lot of work for him. He's got a flair, a beautiful Hispanic flair in particular. And he comes from originally a place called Cuba, which we will be taking over almost immediately.
So again, there's the president of the United States already getting us into another war, already talking about the next war before we have an off ramp, before we have, before we have any, kind of answers to, way to get out of. We've achieved any goals. Nothing has been obtained so far in the war with Iran. But Donald Trump, obviously, as you heard right there, talking about, what's next. Stop playing. I don't know why these are playing right away. There's a few more. Oh, here's another one that I wanted to bring up and show you guys. Far of the neocon, warmonger, bloodthirsty pieces of shit that they have over there on the Republican side of things. Here's Lindsey Graham. A few of these clips making their rounds as it were right now. But this is him talking about how he loves the idea of a Second Amendment solution. And you're like, well, they've always talked about the Second Amendment and that being a solution. No, we're not talking about inside the United States. This is Lindsey Graham talking about arming the entirety of the Iranian population and utilizing, I guess, the Second Amendment that we have here in the United States to weaponize the Iranian people so they could pull some sort of uprisal against their regime. Doesn't make sense. I understand it doesn't make sense, but listen to again, warmonger, neocon, fucking bloodthirsty, drunk piece of shit with his bubble wand, Lindsey Graham here. Lindsey Light and the Loafers Graham talk about again arming the Iranian people to start basically a 90 million person civil war, I guess, at this point in time. Because again, things aren't bad enough in the Middle East. Things aren't like chaotic enough in the Middle East. We should probably throw another, I don't know, millions and millions of weapons into the mix and see how that works, according to Lindsey Graham here. Listen to him. Let's see how sober he is.
Embargo, block.
Look at his eyes already. I mean, fucking being around alcohol, being grown up in the area that we grew up in here, in the atmosphere, let's say we grew up in here, like one can recognize the eyes right off the bat when they're a little kind of lackadaisical, let's just say, when they're having trouble focusing, the mouth movements and stuff. This motherfucker is never sober. This guy hasn't had a sober interview in I don't know how long. Again, I wouldn't even put it past him for removing the bubbles from his little fucking bubble wand he had at Disneyland and putting in like scotch or Jack Daniels or something in that fucking bubble wand, this drunk prick.
Plus.
Yeah, blockade plus. Now, what does that mean? I love the idea of a Second Amendment solution.
Blockade plus, like it's a fucking streaming service, right? You can have the original blockade for just $9.99 a month, but for $15.99 a month, you can have the blockade plus, which gives you access to all of this fucking special content. Like, shut the fuck up with these terms and shit, and like the Second Amendment of weaponizing the Iranians. Like, all he wants to see is bloodshed. He's not happy until somebody's bleeding. He's like Pete Hegseth isn't happy unless there's bombs being dropped, unless there's fucking war crimes being committed, unless there's little kids and little babies being murdered. He's not happy. These people have never known a fucking moment of peace or happiness or joy other than when a war is going on, other than when the fucking the industry here in the United States, the weapons industry, is fucking pumping those things out so that we can send them to the Middle East to make sure that we can eradicate millions and millions of more people like we have already.
For the Iranian people. To those who want to eliminate the Second Amendment in our country, no way. What did the founding fathers do? When they got to America, free from the king, they made sure the people would be able to be armed. The first thing a king does is takes the guns away from his subjects. The first thing a religious theocracy does is make sure that nobody can have a gun.
I recall at some point in time in Donald Trump's first administration saying that he should take the guns before there was like any action or law implemented or legal justification to do so. I do believe that was a clip in Donald Trump's first administration. I won't struggle to find it at this moment in time, but you guys could probably look it up yourselves as far as Donald Trump's comments on that. But again, here he is making the point. We'll finish on this one. There's a couple other ones here that I wanted to get through, but we've run out of time. But we'll end on this. But again, talking about arming and sending millions and millions of weapons into Iran to, again, instigate a civil war or an uprisal against the regime because they've failed in their mission, because they have failed in their objectives and what they said that they were going to accomplish, and the regime change that they said that they were going to be responsible for hasn't happened. So now they have to try to implement it in a different way. And fucking there's nothing that makes Lindsey Graham more happy, that gets him fucking harder underneath the table than, again, the thought of sending millions and millions of weapons into a certain area to watch people utilize them to kill their own people. That's what he gets off on, and he continuously goes on Sean Hannity to prove it.
To threaten the regime. So if I were President Trump and I were Israel, I would load the Iranian people up with...
If I was President Trump, or if I was Israel, Israel. Like, Jesus Christ.
weapons so they could go to the streets armed and turn the tide of battle inside Iran. We don't need American boots on the ground. We've got millions of boots on the ground in Iran. They just don't have any weapons. Give them.
See what he's literally talking about just the expenditure of the Iranian population, right? He's just talking about how we don't need to talk about boots on the ground. We don't need to send American troops there. Let's just send guns and bombs and shit over to the Iranians, and they can kill themselves. They can kill each other, right? That's literally what he's saying here. Like, again, it's not in those terms directly. He's not saying it that specifically, but not that far off of. Right? It's not, like, you don't have to read between the lines too much to get to what he's saying. We already have boots on the ground, right? And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, those boots don't even have fucking shoes. It's just people out there trying to live their fucking lives, trying to feed their families, trying to go to work, right? Trying to make it in an oppressed regime, in an oppressed society like they've been living under. And he just wants to fucking throw in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of weapons so that fucking thousands of people can lose their lives, whether in attacking the regime or the regime attacking back, because you know that's something that's going to happen. You think the regime's just going to lay down their weapons? We know they're more hardlined. We know they're more closely affiliated with the IRGC than the last Ayatollah was. They're younger, right? You have killed a ton of their family members. We've bombed a shitload of their fucking country. You think they're going to be more likely to come to the negotiating table, more likely to be friendly with us, or more likely to say, fuck you, look at what you've done. We're not going to, we're going to make you pay the price type of thing. So again, these sick psychopaths just never cease to amaze me at how the neocons and these fucking bloodthirsty warmongers get off on this shit. It really, really never ceases to amaze me. But there was a few of these clips, 404, and yeah, I did screw myself as far as that was concerned. I had a little too much to cram into the second half of the show, because we had one here from Preston Stewart. We had one here from Benny Johnson. We had one here from LBC. Basically, we didn't get into any of the clips, but that's okay. We got through a lot of the information, a lot of the stuff. Should we, like, what time is it? 4:04. We'll dive into a minute of this. Screw it. What the fuck do I got to do, right? What the fuck do I got to do? We'll dive into a minute of this, see if we can get any more insight, any more information. This is Preston Stewart talking about the Strait of Hormuz. So let's see if there's any other information that we missed, any other details that you guys need to know, and then I'll get you guys out of here. But, let's get through at least one of the clips that I wanted to get through. All right. Hit that like button. My name's Brian. This is Blunt Politics. I really do appreciate you guys for joining us. Thank you for giving me the time, the opportunity to bring you the news, my opinions, the facts as we see them here. Appreciate you guys in the best community that we have. We've built here, the best community on social media. Thank you to the mods. Really do appreciate you guys, and thank you to all the patrons. Thank you to all the YouTube members. You guys are the backbone of this community, and thank you to everybody gifting. There's a Venmo up in the corner as well. If you guys like supporting independent media, independent creators that don't have ads, sponsors, financial backers in any way, that'd be me. That'd be us right here. We don't hide anything behind the paywall. Again, Substack, unfortunately, we're down on Substack right now. I'll have to figure out what the hell that was all about. But we don't charge for the Substack. Again, some people out there charging $8 or even more dollars per month for a Substack. Again, it's free for you to get all the information, to get all of the videos that we post on there as well. And again, you can check out patreon.com/BostonBrian, 3 great tiers on there. Head over to bostonbrian.com for the merch store. You can also get all of the scheduling information, all of the Zoom dates as well at bostonbrian.com. So make sure you guys check that out. Again, if you're repping any merch, if you get any merch, send in a picture, post it on social media. I'll be happy to repost it. And again, with your permission, maybe we could add it into the outro videos like we've done with a few other of the fabulous people inside of the chat that have gotten merch so far. So yeah, let's just dive into just a minute or two of this. See if there's anything else that we need to know about what's been taking place.
And missiles coming out of Iran targeting commercial vessels, oil infrastructure in the UAE, and maybe even U.S. military vessels. Now, this is a changing situation. Like, the missiles are actually flying right now. So we'll get into what we know so far as of 11:15 a.m. Central Time on Monday, May 4th, 2026. Now, kind of the precursor here was a U.S. announcement last night called Project Freedom, announced by President Trump. And this really came about because the ceasefire talks, the peace talks, have just stalled. There's no progress there at all. So we're starting to see the United States and Iran try to find other ways to wrap up this conflict. The U.S. proposal last night was Project Freedom. U.S. Central Command confirmed that this morning, saying CENTCOM will begin supporting Project Freedom to restore freedom of navigation for commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. I'm going to pull up a map here today. This is live UA map to give you an idea of some of the areas that we're talking about as we get through the video. They say the mission directed by the president will support merchant vessels seeking to freely transit through the essential international trade corridor. The maritime freedom construct aims to combine diplomatic action with military coordination, which will be critical during Project Freedom. The U.S. military support to Project Freedom will include guided missile destroyers, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, multi-domain unmanned platforms, and 15,000 service members. So an important aspect here is the way that it was phrased by President Trump made it seem like it was an escort mission, as in U.S. military vessels moving into the Strait of Hormuz.
Again, he's already talking about the confusion that everybody else was bringing up associated with this. Like when Donald Trump first came out, it was an escort mission. You know, it was proposed that the United States Navy would kind of escort these ships through, whether it was in like small groups or kind of each individual ship. And then, not long after that, CENTCOM and the Navy had to come out and say, well, that's not exactly what we're going to be doing. It's more going to be like an overwatch. And like I said, would be in the area, we'll be in the vicinity if you need us type of thing. And then it was like reported that the 2 destroyers were going through the strait. And so again, it's kind of been chaotic and erratic, much like this whole, this whole engagement, this whole war has been this entire time.
Escort, like provide defense side by side for merchant vessels trying to make their way out. The CENTCOM announcement kind of pushes back on that. This is more of a coordination cell. However, there might have been U.S. military vessels in the strait earlier today because we did get notification earlier this morning that at least one may have been fired upon. Iranian media says hit by 2 missiles. There's no evidence to support that, but it does look like at least 2 U.S. merchant vessels made their way out of the Persian Gulf earlier today. Now, following President Trump's announcement of this Project Freedom, we got something from the IRGC where they effectively said, too bad, the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. We still own it. The IRGC spoke.
The back and forth is just wild. Like the difference, the discrepancies, right? The amount of air, the amount of land in between what Trump is saying, what we're hearing from the United States as far as the Pentagon, the military, Trump, right, Hegseth, and what we're hearing as far as the defiance, as far as like the leadership, the foreign ministry, the spokespeople for the Iranian side is just so vastly fucking different. Okay. Like Pete Hegseth, we got a red, white, and blue dome over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran, fuck you, the fuck you do, basically, is their response to that, right? Let's see how much of a dome you have. Let's see how that dome's working out for you as far as in Fujairah or again, the South Korean cargo ship. Like, let's find out how that dome works. Like, the difference in between the statements and what we're actually seeing in reality is just like, it's enough to boggle the mind. It really is. And that's being, broadcast by, even the mainstream media in this fucking country, not to the extent it should be, but even they're like, we don't know what the fuck is going on. He's saying one thing, they're saying another. Basically, you got to look in the middle somewhere to figure out, like, again, the air of truth, like to even get like the fucking the sniff of truth, like somewhere in the middle. It's like, it's wild. And it's being depicted here by like multiple outlets, multiple sources, and people talking about this basically in the same way. Like, this is what they're saying, this is what they're saying. Again, you kind of have to look at like what's actually taking place to get some sort of like truth, because both sides have a reason to lie. Obviously, unfortunately at this point for our country, it seems like the Iranian side seems to be like more on the point, more based in reality as far as what's actually taking place, which again goes to show you the instability, the chaos, the chaotic nature of the American regime in Donald Trump's fucking administration. It's crazy.
Person, Brigadier General Hussein Mahabi said, quote, "No changes have been made to the management of the Strait of Hormuz. Any civilian or commercial vessel operating in line with the IRGC Navy's transit protocols and moving along the designated route in coordination will be ensured safe passage. Any maritime activity that contradicts the IRGC's declared rules will face serious consequences, and violating vessels will be stopped by force."
And again, this is kind of the moment in time, and I appreciate Preston there, and just shout out to Preston. And again, just a little housekeeping note, we're going to have Preston on the show the 13th of this month, so make sure you mark that down on the calendar. Again, we've utilized his videos for quite some time now. Should be a very good conversation, very honored, and I feel very privileged to be able to have these people on the show. So I appreciate you guys for helping build up this platform to a point where they find some value in coming to speak to people like me and to communities like you. So very much appreciated, and look forward to speaking to Preston. And now that I went through the housekeeping, I think I forget that I had the what note I wanted to say, what point I was trying to make as far as that's concerned. Hold on. Let me see. Let's go back just a second, see if I can refresh my memory bank here.
Consequences, and violating vessels will be stopped by force. All shipping companies and cargo issuers are urged to follow IRGC advisories and official notices. In fact, the IRGC issued a new map as well, showing the only permissible corridor to transit the Strait of Hormuz. And you'll see that it's just a little sliver there right along the coast of Iran. So,
which is, again, the kind of the route that they've been kind of tasking these ships, any ships that they have been allowing through to use, which is, again, showing ownership, right? If you're still going to have to talk to the Iranians and get some sort of license to pay some sort of toll, to pay some sort of fee, to get a classification as for, where you're coming from, where you're going, what you're carrying, type of thing, it shows clear ownership. It shows clear control over the strait still by the Iranians and their willingness to, again, show their defiance, to continue to lob missiles and drones into different areas to kind of show that if the blockade persists, so will their attacks. If Donald Trump doesn't, again, offer some sort of off-ramp as far as peace talks and negotiations are concerned, then, again, they're not afraid to escalate along with, the American side and whatever they have planned with Israel for ongoing escalation. But there was a couple other videos as well. We'll save those for tomorrow's show. We'll see if we can dive into those as well. But I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. Thank you guys for supporting independent media. I really do appreciate you guys and your fight and your passion, and you guys, making sure that these channels succeed to the best of your ability. I really do appreciate it. What do you say we get into thanking some great people over on the Venmo side of things? Again, Venmo just up here in the corner. Buck or two is all we ask for. Nothing, anything above and beyond that is 100% up to you guys, depending on your financial capabilities. Again, a buck or two is a lot less than you'll pay for a gallon of gas. Again, a YouTube membership, again, a lot less than a gallon of gas. You can head over to patreon.com/Boston Brian. 3 great tiers on there. Get you access to the perks associated with that. Obviously, the discount to the merch site that's associated with the different Patreon platforms, the different Patreon accounts as well. And then obviously access to the Zooms that we have every Monday. And again, shout out to everybody that joined us last night for the Zoom. Always love seeing you guys. Great conversations, great time. So thank you so much today to V Sawyer. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for the $5 on Venmo. Very much appreciated for your kind contributions. And then just everybody over the last couple of days. Thank you so much to Jenny Faye. As always, shout out to Corey as well. Thank you to MR. Thank you to Geneva for your incredibly kind contributions over the last few days. Thank you to Roger and Karen as well. Thank you to Nina. And then thank you to Yakov, Roxanne. Thank you to Tempe, Allison, Damon, Geneva, Tom, the Altar Boy. Thank you so much to Victoria, Mark. Thank you so much to Claudia and Nina, rounding it out over the last couple days. So I know you guys, it's tough times. I know you guys are under a pinch, whether that's with gas prices, grocery prices, energy prices, you name it. And I know you guys are feeling it just like I am. So if you can't come out of pocket with $1 or $2, please feel free to do the free stuff, which is liking, sharing, subscribing, throwing the comment in the chat, throwing some emojis in the chat, helping the algorithm, become aware of this show, whether it's kind of after the show post. You can leave a comment, permanent comment underneath. That also helps to direct people into this. And again, if you could share the show out on whatever social media platforms that you guys frequent, that would be fantastic as well. And again, if you guys could, bring up the show in different conversations and different chats, again, without being overwhelming, overpowering, as I always say, just kind of interject that into, a few conversations here and there. You never know who's going to bite. So thank you guys to everybody on Venmo who's kind enough to support the channel. And then to everybody over here on YouTube, thank you so much as well. I appreciate you, Gamer. Thank you for being here for 9 months. Fist bump right back at you, brother. Much appreciated. Thank you, Frank. My water bill goes to Boston, so enjoy. I know, like I said, I know everybody's in the crunch right now, whether it's water bills or you name it. I understand, Frank, and I appreciate everybody taking the time out with $1 or $2 out of their pocket to help this show. I really do. I'm not expecting the world from everybody. Just a little bit from everybody would be great. So thank you, Bicycle Mike, Frank, Gamer. I really do appreciate going camping today. Let's fucking go. Hopefully you have some fantastic weather. Hopefully you brought some marshmallows, some cold beer, some good smoke, right, and some good friends. That would be a fantastic. That would be a fantastic way to go out, right? Not go out, but go out camping, I should say. So Bicycle Mike, appreciate you. Thank you for the $2 contribution. Jimmy Two Soups. Winner of today's best fucking screen name award goes to Jimmy Two Soups. donation to Jack Richardson was easy. Thank you so much, Jimmy Two Soups, for your contributions. Thank you for stepping up, putting your money where your mouth is to support progressive candidates. Very much appreciate that, and enjoy having you in the chat as well. Thank you to Grams. Good to see you, Grams. Remember, for 25 months, let's go. Except there's a DUI hire. Amen to that one. Amen to that one, Grams. Couldn't have said it better myself. So very much appreciate you, your kind contributions, your support for the show over 2 years now. Let's fucking go. Appreciate you, Grams. Thank you so much to Dame. Shout out to Dame. Good to see you last night in the Zoom, my friend. Thank you so much for the one gifted membership as well. Always love to see you in here. Always love having you contributing. Always good to see you in here. Enjoying the chat, enjoying the show as you do. So thank you so much for everything that you do. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, my friend. Thank you so much to JD for your kind contributions as well, as always. Lobsters right back at you, brother. Going in the swear jar. And thank you, Ruben, rounding it out today for the $5. Thank you, Brian. He says no, thank you, Ruben. As I already said, much appreciated for everything that you guys do. Sorry about the technical difficulties there in the second half. I'm glad we got through the first half with our good friend Jack Richardson, again running for the 3rd Barnstable State Representative seat here in Massachusetts, down the Cape. So again, if you're involved in Massachusetts politics, if you live in the area, or again, you just want to support progressive candidates in local politics all over the country, check out Jack on all his social media sites. Again, we posted the links into the chat where you can find him, where you can donate to his campaign, where you can support his campaign, anything that you want. So thanks again to everybody. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to the chat. Thank you to the mods. Much love, much respect to everybody from me to you. Thank you so much, Ruben. Share the show, folks. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for the $5 as well. I can't thank you guys enough for your contributions. I know it's really tough times now. I know it's it's not the easiest thing to support all of the shows that you watch. So I just want to make sure that you guys feel appreciated and kind of get your dues. The respect that you guys deserve for continuously supporting all of these different independent platforms, independent creators, and keeping us sustained here. So thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. My name is Brian. This is Blunt Politics, the political podcast to sift through the bullshit, the lies, the mainstream media, the bullshit that they sell you, the propaganda that they sell you. And we just try to break it down like normal, everyday people would, like a friend and family conversation would go down. So if that's something that you dig, if that's something that you find some value in, you feel like our coverage of domestic politics or our coverage of the war in Ukraine or anything outside of this country, I really do appreciate you and would appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. So we're trying to get to 20,000. It's only with your help that we're going to get there. Thank you so much, Yakov. I see you in there, brother. Let's go. 5th for the 5th. Yeah, I know. I missed it yesterday. May the 4th be with you. I kind of missed the opportunity to say that. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. What's today? Tuesday. 2 shows tomorrow. 2 shows tomorrow. So we get the afternoon show, 1 hour at 1 p.m., right? And then we got tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m., 2-hour show, full show tomorrow night. So 2 opportunities tomorrow to catch the Blunt Politics podcast. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Hopefully it works. Sometimes it doesn't, but if you can't get the notification bell to work, just go to bostonbrian.com. That'll give you the show schedule. That'll let you know when I go live anyway. So make sure you're liking the shorts. To follow me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, the whole 9 yards. Share the show out. Leave a comment. Leave an emoji. All those good things. Thank you to the chat. Thank you to the mods. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. 2 times. Appreciate you guys. Peace.
We're inviting Americans from all across the country to come.
Here's a thought. Grow a sack, fill it with some balls.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing.
For minors, do we love minors? I love minors.
To officially name the undisputed, when did this come out? The undisputed champion of beautiful, clean coal. We're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.
Fucking Nazis. I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of
Вітаю,
Nazis.
Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Oh, get those lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Brian, yeah, you're drunk. You're drunk.
You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands, little hands. Obama, Obama. Water coming here is dead.
Taking it back to Nevada where he's wanted for banging horses. He says rectum damn near killed him.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Cacophony, a crescendo, a finale, a coup de grace.
Yes, of course, hence the name. Movement, it moves a certain distance, then it stops, you see. Revolution gets its name by always coming back around in your face. You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch. So welcome to the revolution.
You know what uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things.
Go fuck yourself.